जैसलमेर में सामान्य स्थिति है। जो लॉकडाउन की स्थिति बनी हुई थी 3-4 दिनों से, लोग अपने घरों से बाहर निकल रहे हैं। सुबह सुबह यातायात सामान्य दिख रहा है, दुकानों पर चहल पहल है, बाजार और सुबह सुबह ही गुलजार नज़र आ रहे हैं। कल जैसे ही सीज़ फायर की घोषणा हुई, यहाँ पर लोग जीत का जश्न मनाने के लिए आ गए थे, मगर धीरे धीरे खबरें आने लगी कि इंटरनेशनल बॉर्डर पर सीमा पार से ड्रोन देखे जा रहे हैं, मार के गिराए जा रहे हैं। जैसलमेर में धमाके की आवाज़ आ रही है। उसके बाद जैसे ही विदेश मंत्रालय ने कड़ी चेतावनी दी और सेना को कठोर कदम उठाने के लिए खुली छूट दी, पूरे पश्चिमी सीमा पर श्रीगंगानगर, बीकानेर, हनुमानगढ़, जैसलमेर, बाड़मेर, कहीं से भी कोई गोलीबारी या फिर ड्रोन देखे जाने या फिर किसी मिसाइल, किसी भी तरह की कोई घटना नहीं हुई। पूरी तरह से शांति है।
I'm going straight across to Ashutosh at this point in time, getting in more details on that story. He is in Kashmir as we speak. Ashutosh, give us a sense of what is the situation where you are. We've seen violation of the ceasefire almost immediately on the part of Pakistan last evening. How is the situation now? In some areas, at least, we've seen things get back to normalcy, isn't it?
Just couple of minutes, forward from this area, there is a line of control, the bordering area, international borders, and last night, of course, there have been some ceasefire violations by the Pakistan. But as we see now, the normalcy is restoring. The people have started getting back to the life, and that's why exactly we are sitting here on this panchayat in Chaupal in Akhnur, in this village. The activity has resumed. People have started going back to their farms. Of course, not all the offices are open. The blackout still was observed last night, and since it's a process, the restoration of normalcy process takes a time. What is biggest concern for the people is that there is a faith, there is a lack of faith on Pakistan, and which is, of course, Pakistan is an adversary and enemy nation, and these people have been suffering about ceasefire violations, and even after the announcement, the Pakistan did not kept its word. Late night, the kind of incidents that happened. So there is a sense of concern among these villagers, but for now the life मुझे लग रहा है कि चीजें ठीक हो रही हैं, लोग घरों से निकले हैं, आज आप लोग बैठ पा रहे हैं। कुछ बेहतर हुआ है आज सुबह अगर हम देखें तो?
हाँ, थोड़ा बहुत बेहतर हुआ है, ऐसी कोई बात नहीं है। तो थोड़ा सा ऐसा किया कि जो मोदी साहब ने फैसला ले लिया, इनको क्या करना था, थोड़ा सा सबको सिखाना था। हाँ, हमको क्या होता है, कोई
आप लोग ऑफिस जाना, काम पे जाना शुरू किया कि नहीं आप लोग?
हाँ, थोड़ा काम जाना शुरू कर दिया, और 3 दिन से तो हम घर में ही बैठे हुए थे।
3 दिन?
हाँ जी, 3
दिन बाद कैसा लग रहा है खुला आसमान?
तो लग रहा है कि बाहर आके कुछ लग रहा है कि काम जाम करेंगे, कुछ ऑफिस जाएंगे, कोई कुछ सामान लेंगे खाने के लिए, कुछ करेंगे। 3 दिन से घर में बैठे हुए हैं।
That's what, when the people see this kind of tension escalation, it is not just a simple conflict or the escalation. They have been facing literally bullets and shells in this area, and imagine the people who are literally confined in bunkers for 3 days. So this is, of course, a breathing moment for them, a little smile on their faces. They are bringing back their life, routine work begins because they'll go out in the market. A few shops have already also started opening, and that's exactly why I say this panchayat happening in this Akhnur. We're just a little part of it, a little chit-chatting, getting a sense about people, what they feel about the entire situation. There is one only concern about the people, little worried that whether Pakistan will keep the word that it has assured to the global community that there will not be unprovoked firing or he will not violate the ceasefire again. So until unless, if that is maintained, of course, the life will be really better. The people will be better in their life in the bordering areas. But we'll have to see how Pakistan is going to behave further looking at the history of this nation.
Well, absolutely can't be trusted, isn't it, Ashutosh? Be with me. Just coming back to you in a moment from now. Shivani is in Uri getting us a clear picture also about how the situation is. Shivani, as I speak to you, we have this report from Amritsar also on the right side of our screens where people are now enjoying a good Sunday breakfast. They're out on the streets of Amritsar and seem to be calm. Give us an idea about how the situation overall is in Jammu and Kashmir, in particular in the context of the violation of ceasefire that was seen last evening.
Sneha, there's been a lot of uncertainty through the night because only when we got inputs from various locations in the morning, early morning, that there was no violation thereafter when India made its point clear and condemned the earlier ceasefire violations that started in the night across Jammu and Kashmir. Because, we were in Srinagar when ceasefire was declared, and we saw how people started coming out, enjoying. There was a sense of relief out there. We were also getting inputs from the borders that people are relieved. But soon after, we started getting inputs of ceasefire violations. So people were actually were cursing Pakistan that could not be trusted. They were saying that what is this? Even the tweets from Chief Minister of Jammu Kashmir were very indicative of the fact that what is happening. They had no clue. But overnight, after India's condemnation came in and India said that we are giving an adequate, appropriate response to these ceasefire violations, then we could get a sense that now actually the ceasefire has been maintained through the night. People are gradually restoring their life, which was disturbed through last 5 days after the Pakistan's misadventure, and the ceasefire violations continued along the line of control too. The villages out there have been severely impacted, Sneha. Heavy damages on the houses, property, casualties have also been reported. Many of those villages had moved to safer locations. So now people are once again getting an assurance slowly, gradually. They are moving towards their homes back. And a sense of calm. But yes, as we always maintain, that Pakistan cannot be trusted. The security forces on a high alert across the western sector.
Well, absolutely. That's the key message, I think, that it can't be trusted. In spite of the announcement, there were violations on the part of Pakistan that were seen in various regions. Hours after India announced a ceasefire agreement and said that it had been reached with Pakistan, following Islamabad's initiation of truce talks, Pakistan violated the ceasefire late in the evening, launching artillery shelling and drone activity, which was seen along the international border and LOC in multiple locations. India responded swiftly and decisively, neutralizing the threat. Indian forces are currently monitoring the situation, have been instructed to respond strongly to Pakistan's provocation.
For the last few hours, there have been repeated violations of the understanding arrived at earlier this evening between the Directors General of Military Operations of India and Pakistan. This is a breach of the understanding arrived at earlier today. The armed forces are giving an adequate and appropriate response to these violations, and we take very, very serious notice of these violations. We call upon Pakistan to take appropriate steps to address these violations and deal with the situation with seriousness and responsibility. The armed forces are maintaining a strong vigil on the situation. They have been given instructions to deal strongly with any instances of a repetition of the violations of the borders along the international border as well as the line of control.
All right, so India-Pakistan ceasefire that was announced by India at 5, a little before US President Donald Trump spoke about it. But there is ceasefire only on military action, make no mistake. The Indus Treaty, the Water Treaty, continues to remain in abeyance. India has made its position very, very clear that there is no change to this. India-Pakistan bilateral trade is going to continue to stay suspended. Diplomatic and financial strikes to continue is what sources within the government are indicating. I'm going to go back to Shivani for more on that. Shivani, give us a sense of how India is looking at this. The fact that they want also the military action to stop in that sense. However, there is going to be no change in strategy when it comes to punishing Pakistan. And the kind of steps that we had taken just immediately after Pahalgam is something that's going to continue.
Sneha, the diplomatic punishment that started after Pahalgam on Pakistan still continues. What we heard yesterday and the truce in the military operations, the action that was continuing has only been stopped. There is no other decision that has been taken by the government as of now on rolling back or resetting the ties, the diplomatic ties that have already been cancelled after Pahalgam attack with Pakistan. So we must understand that this is just an understanding. This is not an agreement. That has also come as a clear message from the government, Sneha, that Pakistan has been harboring terrorism. It has not resolved the issues when it comes to the terror outfits inside its Indian boundaries. And all what has happened after Operation Sindoor, the kind of endorsements these terrorists have been getting, the wreath of Chief of Army Staff of Pakistan in their funerals, has once again made it very clear that Pakistan's army, they all have been associated with these terror outfits that have been acting against India. So there cannot be any dialogue with Pakistan because it has been taking this terrorism ahead and using international money to fund these terrorists inside Pakistan. Our close nexus of Pakistani government, army and terrorists goes on. So there can be no rolling back of the diplomatic ties with Pakistan. So India's stand remains very clear that whatever action has been stopped because only the civilian damages are not inflicted, especially in India, and also India also cares about the civilians in the other country because we've seen the measured actions did not touch any civilians in Pakistan. So this is a pause in the action that India was taking against Pakistan's misadventures. Nothing more should be read out of this.
All right.
Sneha.
Halt in military action, at least for the time being. And that's what ceasefire for India means. But who sought this ceasefire? Clearly, Pakistan did. And why did they do it? Given the kind of destructions and problems vis-a-vis India's precision strikes that they had to face. Look at the kind of destruction. 11 Pakistan Air Force bases were completely destroyed. This really compelled them. Pakistan air defense systems were also demolished. 9 terror bases in Pakistan, Punjab and Pakistan occupied Kashmir were struck. 5 high-value terror targets were killed in Indian precision strikes. That's the kind of damage that they suffered, which finally compelled Islamabad to ask for truce, to seek truce. Well, after days of military conflict that put the world on the edge, India and Pakistan agreed to a ceasefire, which was initiated by Islamabad itself. The truce came into effect at 5 p.m. on Saturday, hours after Indian missiles hit multiple military targets, including 8 key air bases in Pakistan. However, the ceasefire didn't last long. Pakistan restored to shelling along the LOC at multiple locations just after 3 hours. Meanwhile, sources have told India today that the ceasefire with Pakistan is a conditional one and that there is no change in India's position on the suspension on the Indus Waters Treaty. Sources have said that US played a key role in de-escalation by placing direct pressure on Pakistan and linking the provisional release of $1 billion IMF loan to immediate acceptance of the ceasefire, with the remainder contingent on full compliance. Now that Pakistan has violated the ceasefire, it remains to be seen how the US responds. India today has also learned that the US has formally acknowledged India's revised war doctrine, which stipulates that any future terror attack is going to be treated as an act of war. However, like we told you earlier, ceasefire for India means that there will be no military action initiated on its part. But this has got nothing to do with India's position vis-a-vis the Indus Water Treaty, in the sense that that continues to remain suspended. India won't share hydrological information with Pakistan. That position remains unchanged. India to continue building infrastructure projects on 3 northern rivers is what our sources within the government are indicating. US also put pressure on Pakistan is what we are picking from our sources. America made the International Monetary Fund loan release to Pakistan as a ceasefire condition. Clearly said, if you want the bailout, if you want the money, then you have to agree to a ceasefire, is what we're learning from our sources, again from the government. India has toughened its war doctrine against Pakistan, declaring that any future act of terror is going to be considered an act of war and will be responded to accordingly. This highlights India's zero tolerance towards terrorism and sends out a strong message to Pakistan amidst recent provocations. Not just this, even the United States has admitted that Pakistan poses a threat to global security. Under international law, an act of war refers to actions taken by one state against another that involve the use of armed force or aggression, typically signaling the start of an armed conflict or war. With this decision, India has drawn clear red lines against terror incidents and made it clear to Pakistan that it will respond firmly to the perpetrators of terrorism.
You worked very closely with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. What was different and what led to this very changed response, this very aggressive response by India to Pakistan's state-sponsored terror? We've been suffering this terror for decades, Ambassador.
No, absolutely. But the difference under Prime Minister Modi's leadership is that 2016, there was the Uri attack. We had a response. Our special operations team went across the border and eliminated a few of the terrorist camps that were there. 2019, we had Pulwama, and we saw strikes across the border by our Air Force. This time, in the wake of the Pahalgam terrorist attack, I think Op Sindoor was a fitting response to that heinous act that was perpetrated by terrorists that was sponsored by Pakistan. And but our actions were very calibrated, that we hit the terrorist camps. Those terrorists that were directly responsible for Pahalgam were hit. The Lashkar-e-Toiba, their headquarters was hit. Some of their main operatives were eliminated. Similarly with the Jaish-e-Mohammed. So I think we have avenged the memory of those of our citizens who were gunned down so mercilessly in Pahalgam. We have maintained since then a very firm and uncompromising position, but at the same time, we have not gone beyond. I mean, we could have done a lot more. We could have gone out and hammered the Pakistanis on all fronts. But what we did was a very proportionate, a very calibrated strike, not only in Op Sindoor, but subsequently in response to Pakistani kinetic actions. I think we had also been very firm in our response. And as Minister Dr. Jaishankar said, he said that we will be firm in our response to any escalation that Pakistan undertakes.
I'm going straight across to Piyush Mishra, getting in more details on that story. Piyush, it's very clear as far as India's own position is concerned, isn't it? That we aren't looking at, doing away with the kind of steps that we had taken immediately after Pahalgam. This includes keeping the Indus Water Treaty in abeyance. It also includes economic strikes against Pakistan, the kind of pressure that we built over the last, 20-25 days or so. That pressure is going to stay on the country. What only changes is that there will be no military action initiated by India. That's what ceasefire means for us.
And that is also not permanent, Sneha. What we are now learning from our sources is that, it was only an understanding after the Pakistan DGMO called up Indian DGMO and requested for ceasefire yesterday at 3:35 p.m. One thing is very clear. We have heard from our sources within the government that the kind of diplomatic actions those were taken against Pakistan, there is no second thought on that. There is not even discussion on that within the government functionary. So the Indus Water Treaty will continue to remain in abeyance. The decision of sending all Pakistanis back to their country will continue. No Pakistani will be allowed in the nation. All the visas those were cancelled. There will be no rethink on that. So that diplomatic actions those were taken, all these things will continue to remain in place. Only and only ceasefire was announced because Pakistan had requested. And why Pakistan? We agreed to the Pakistan's request, Sneha, because we never wanted escalation. We were only, reacting back to the provocation of Pakistan, and our reaction was also measured, non-escalatory, and that is why we made it very clear that we do not want to attack any military installations like Pakistan was doing. So one thing is clear, that there is no rethink on the diplomatic strike which India did on Pakistan. All the actions those were taken on the very next day after the CCS meet of Pahalgam terror attack will remain in place. And even if there is a discussion on or if there is some sort of agreement on Indus Water Treaty to happen in the future, that will happen only and only on India's own conditions.
Well, absolutely. Be with us, Piyush. I'll come back to you again in a moment from now to tell our viewers a little about how this ceasefire is actually a historic achievement in whichever way you look at it. India destroyed terrorist infrastructure deep inside Pakistan, talking a little about the success of Operation Sindoor. India became the world's first country to undertake strikes on a nuclear state. Surgical strikes in Pakistan occupied Kashmir to strikes in Pakistan, Punjab. India enhanced retaliation against terror. 9 terror hubs linked to Hafizite and Al-Qaeda were destroyed in Operation Sindoor over a period of days. Message of India's missile strike that Pakistan's army's jugular vein is no longer invulnerable. Precision targeting of terror infrastructure was widely appreciated. Pahalgam terror attack was avenged. Not just that, 26/11 and 2001 Parliament attack perpetrators were also brought to justice. Pakistan fired drones and missiles at India, though, in a pre-dawn strike. India's 26 strategic and military facilities were on target. In retaliation, India successfully struck 6 key Pakistani air bases, inflicting heavy damage on military installations. A total of 8 military bases in Pakistan has been destroyed by India, one of the key reasons why Islamabad sought truce. Take a look.
Hours before the ceasefire on Saturday, India carried out precision strikes at 11 military targets of Pakistan. The Indian strike was in retaliation to another round of aerial attacks by Pakistan. In an assault that started on Friday night, Pakistani forces used drones, long-range missiles and fighter jets to target 26 locations, including key Indian air bases. In a grave escalation, Pakistan also used Fatah-1 missiles. Indian air defense system thwarted most of these attempts. Pakistan also resorted to firing across the border using heavy caliber weapons.
Pakistan employed UCAV, drones, long-range weapons, loitering munitions and fighter aircraft to target civilian areas and military infrastructure. Pakistan military also resorted to air intrusions using drones and firing of heavy caliber weapons along the line of control.
In a befitting and calibrated response, India carried out precision strikes at 8 military targets of Pakistan. The strikes were carried out on technical installations, command and control centers, radar sites and weapons arsenal of Pakistan. The locations targeted by India include Noor Khan Air Base in Rawalpindi, Rahim Yar Khan Air Base, Joint Staff Headquarters in Chaklala, Sukur Air Base, Pasroor Radar Site, Sialkot Aviation Base, military installations in Rafiki, Murid and Chunia. Indian attack inflicted damage on 4 air bases. These are Noor Khan in Rawalpindi that houses IL-78 refueler and Hercules, Rahim Yar Khan which has JF-17s, Rafiki Air Base which also houses JF-17 aircraft, and Murid Air Base where fleets of unmanned drones are kept.
रफीकी, मुरीद, चकलाला, रहमियार खान, सुकूर और चुनिया स्थित पाक के सैन्य ठिकानों पर एयर लॉन्च सटीक हथियारों व लड़ाकू जेट से प्रहार किए गए। पसरूर स्थित रडार साइट और सियालकोट का एविएशन बेस भी प्रिसीजन एम्यूनिशन से टारगेट किए गए। इन कार्रवाइयों के दौरान भारत ने कम से कम कोलैटरल डैमेज की क्षति सुनिश्चित की।
India and Pakistan had seemed to be climbing up the escalatory ladder in a dramatic fashion when the ceasefire was announced in an equally dramatic manner Saturday evening. Bureau Report, India Today.
We'll continue to get you more details on that big story that we're tracking very closely. Remember, we're also on standby for the big briefing at 11 in just 30 minutes from now. For the moment, it's a quick commercial break here.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro, the edge of excellence.
open on TV. Motorola Edge 60 Pro.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro, the edge of excellence.
Hi, here are the top headlines presented by Motorola. Hours after India announced ceasefire, Pakistan violates truce, peace in border areas, no news of any firing since late night, no change in India's position on the suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty.
The big breaking news this evening, 3 hours after a ceasefire was announced, Pakistan has provoked and violated it once again. Pakistan has launched drones and artillery fire in some parts of Jammu and Kashmir, in Kutch, as well as in Gurdaspur. Is the Pakistani army not accepting the ceasefire that was announced by no less than US President Donald Trump? Is the Pakistani army defying the civilian government? Is the army, as the army's shelling continues along the LOC, what comes next? What we are now told, and Gaurav Sawant now joins me at the moment. Gaurav, you know more than anyone else on what exactly the army is looking at. We're now being told, Gaurav, army shelling has stopped along the LOC.
Welcome back. We're getting you details of the ceasefire that was announced between India and Pakistan. There is tense calm, though, that prevails in the valley and other regions that were targeted by Pakistan. Take a look at the top updates at this hour. The situation in Jammu and Kashmir remains tense but calm, with no overnight explosions or firing reported. Tight security measures are in place at borders with Punjab, Rajasthan and Gujarat. The ceasefire is holding, but security forces remain on alert. A day after India and Pakistan reached ceasefire, agencies are on high alert across Jammu. State Investigation Agency raided multiple locations in South Kashmir. Raids were conducted related to terror activities. India has opened multiple gates of the Salal Dam, causing Chenab waters to gush in. The action comes amid tensions between the two countries and discussions about the Indus Water Treaty. Power supply restored in areas that were blacked out in Jammu and Amritsar. Restoration efforts are ongoing. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will be inaugurating virtually a BrahMos supersonic cruise missile production unit that is part of the Uttar Pradesh Defence Industrial Corridor. UP Chief Minister is going to be present at the unit on the occasion. The facility underscores India's push for self-reliance in defence and is set to give a major boost to UP's industrial growth. By early morning, the situation had returned to normal with no overnight shelling reported from the Pakistan side. In areas like Amritsar, the red alert has been lifted. After yesterday's blackout and ceasefire violation, the situation seems to be returning to normalcy, at least in some areas. People are once again seen on the streets across various locations. Our teams are assessing the situation on ground zero. Take a look.
Residents of Rajouri are picking up their lives right again. Look at this. People out here on the streets once again, opening up the shops. What we're trying to show to you, the devastation here, but this is the resilience of the people, because remember, they have seen a lot in the past few days. Tense times, sleepless nights. We'll just try and get you a sense. This shop has just been opened. Sir, आप ये बताइए, एक बार फिर दुकान खोली है, जिंदगी पटरी पर आ रही है, क्योंकि नुकसान हुआ, हम देख रहे हैं कि शीशे वगैरह टूटे हुए हैं, और लेकिन यहाँ पे हम देख रहे हैं कि आप लोग पूरी तरह से कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि चीजें वापस पटरी पर आएं।
देखो, हर बंदे की यही कोशिश होती है कि वापस पटरी पे आए, क्योंकि रोजी रोटी रोजगार हर बंदे का यहीं से स्टार्ट होता है, और खाना क्या करना क्या है, और कोशिश करेंगे कि इसको दोबारा से इंस्टॉलमेंट करें, तैयार करवाएं और चलाएं काम अपना।
Acha. So let's just try and get more people. Sir, ceasefire को welcome करते हैं आप?
वेलकम तो करना ही है और क्या वेलकम तो करना हमने हम थोड़े जोड़ रहे कि जंगी हो तो फर्स्ट क्लास उम्र रह रहे थे कोई लड़ाई झगड़ा नहीं है हमारा यहाँ तो कुछ है नहीं है मसला तो ये अगर सीज फायर हो गया तो अच्छी बात है उसमें तो
काफी रजौरी में नुकसान भी हुआ है जाने भी गए हैं
बहुत अभी मैं ऊपर से आ रहा हूँ यहाँ ये ऊपर एक रेडी वाले ऊपर वाले रेडी वाले भी जो ठीक है नीचे वाले भी ठीक है बीच में से सिलेंडर सारा सामान उसका बेचारा गरीब आदमी था उठा के ले ये हालत है यहाँ
See the number of people who've been going around and this is also an indication that people are now trying. Look at that lady out there. She's back in her residence and this is where what we can tell you is the resilience that people have shown here. This is where what we can tell you that eventually there would be life back on track.
We are in the city of Amritsar. It's the same city which has seen a lot of tension day before yesterday when the Pakistan did misadventure and fired drones around this, which was shot down by the Indian troops. But now the ceasefire has happened and Amritsar administration has also flashed a message that everything is normal, the red alert is over. So you can see around me, the people are out in the street enjoying their morning breakfast, enjoying their morning tea, and these are the scenes in Amritsar, which is a big breather for them. And we'll talk to the people here who have come here in the morning that what this morning means to them.
माहौल से तो खुश हैं लेकिन ये जो हुआ है वो गलत हुआ है मैं तब खुश था जब सीज फायर हुआ था कि सब काम चलेंगे सबके
देखिए सभी लोग यही चाहते थे कि अमन शांति बनी रहे और इसलिए अब नया नोटिस आया है 8:15 बजे के अमन शांति मतलब सीज फायर हो गया है अब तो इसीलिए तो सब लोग खुशी की लहर दौड़ गई है सभी में
The Amritsar administration also flashing messages that the red alert is over. So you can see people out here. From Amritsar with camera person Chandis, Hasim Basi, India Today.
भारत पाकिस्तान के बीच सीज फायर की घोषणा के बाद आप देख सकते हैं किस तरह से यहाँ पर जैसलमेर में सामान्य स्थिति है। जो लॉकडाउन की स्थिति बनी हुई थी 3-4 दिनों से लोग अपने घरों से बाहर निकल रहे हैं। सुबह सुबह यातायात सामान्य दिख रहा है, दुकानों पर चहल पहल है, बाजार और सुबह सुबह ही गुलजार नज़र आ रहे हैं। कल जैसे ही सीज फायर की घोषणा हुई यहाँ पर लोग जीत का जश्न मनाने के लिए आ गए थे, मगर धीरे धीरे खबरें आने लगी कि इंटरनेशनल बॉर्डर पर सीमा पार से ड्रोन देखे जा रहे हैं, मार के गिराए जा रहे हैं। जैसलमेर में धमाके की आवाज़ आ रही है। उसके बाद जैसे ही विदेश मंत्रालय ने कड़ी चेतावनी दी और सेना को कठोर कदम उठाने के लिए खुली छूट दी, पूरे पश्चिमी सीमा पर श्रीगंगानगर, बीकानेर, हनुमानगढ़, जैसलमेर, बाड़मेर कहीं से भी कोई गोलीबारी या फिर ड्रोन देखे जाने या फिर किसी मिसाइल किसी भी तरह की कोई घटना नहीं हुई। पूरी तरह से शांति है।
After India announced a ceasefire agreement had been reached with Pakistan following Islamabad's initiation of truce talks, Pakistan violated this agreement. Late in the evening, Pakistan launched artillery shelling and drone activity. Drone activity was reported along the international border and the line of control in multiple locations. India responded swiftly and decisively, neutralizing this threat. Our forces are currently monitoring the situation, have been instructed to respond strongly to Pakistan's provocation.
For the last few hours, there have been repeated violations of the understanding arrived at earlier this evening between the Directors General of Military Operations of India and Pakistan. This is a breach of the understanding arrived at earlier today. The armed forces are giving an adequate and appropriate response to these violations, and we take very, very serious notice of these violations. We call upon Pakistan to take appropriate steps to address these violations and deal with the situation with seriousness and responsibility. The armed forces are maintaining a strong vigil on the situation. They have been given instructions to deal strongly with any instances of a repetition of the violations of the borders along the international border as well as the line of control.
And this is in India Today, world exclusive. A list access terrorist Abu Jindal to Masood's kin. Top 5 Lashkar and Jaish terrorists were wiped out in Operation Sindoor. Who are they? Here's more.
A 25-minute multi-domain assault on 9 terror camps in Pakistan and POK. Terror hotbeds reduced to rubble. Most wanted terrorists and terror pads destroyed by Indian forces in a precise strike. Exclusive information accessed by India Today reveals the elimination of over 100 terrorists on May 7. Among those killed in Operation Sindoor were 5 top operatives from Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed involved in planning and executing attacks against India. Sources say Indian forces neutralized Mudassar Khadian Khas, also known as Abu Jundal, an LET terrorist who was in charge of Markaz Taiba in Muridke. Jundal received a guard of honor at his funeral from Pakistan Army. Among the attendees were a serving Lieutenant General and IG of Punjab Police. The prayer was led by US designated Lashkar terrorist Hafiz Abdul Rauf. Another key target eliminated was Jaish-e-Mohammed's Hafiz Muhammad Jamil, the eldest brother-in-law of Masood Azhar. Jamil was in charge of Markaz Subhanallah in Bahawalpur. He was involved in radical indoctrination and fundraising for JEM. Also killed was Muhammad Yusuf Azhar, known by several aliases including Ustad Ji and Muhammad Salim. A Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorist, Yusuf Azhar was brother-in-law of Masood Azhar. He was the weapons trainer for JEM. He was also suspect in the Kandahar IC-814 hijacking and linked to multiple terror attacks in Jammu and Kashmir. Another top Lashkar operative, Khalid, alias Abu Aksha, was also confirmed dead. He had orchestrated multiple terror strikes in Jammu and Kashmir. Khalid was involved in weapons smuggling from Afghanistan. The fifth high-value target was Muhammad Hassan Khan, a next-generation Jaish leader. He was a son of Mufti Asghar Khan Kashmiri, an operational commander of the Jaish-e-Mohammed in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Hassan Khan coordinated terror operations in Jammu and Kashmir. Operation Sindoor was not just retaliatory but a show of India's resolve and capability in dismantling terror infrastructure. The operation followed the April 22nd terror attack in Pahalgam that left 26 dead. Bureau Report, India Today.
Been taken down by India. Abu Jundal, one of them, Yusuf Azhar, the other. This has been confirmed to us via our sources within the Indian government. And to give our viewers a comprehensive list of those terrorists who were killed in Indian strikes, in precision strikes. Mudassar Khadian Khas, also known as Abu Jundal, the affiliation of this terrorist to Lashkar-e-Taiba, in charge of Markaz Taiba Muridke, received a guard of honor at his funeral by the Pakistan Army. Remember, those images had gone completely viral, where wreaths were laid on behalf of Pakistan Army Chief and Punjab Chief Minister Maryam Nawaz. His funeral prayer led by Hafiz Abdul Rauf of the JUD, a designated global terrorist, a serving Lieutenant General of the Pakistan Army, and IG of Punjab Police attended the prayer ceremony. On the terror kill list, Hafiz Muhammad Jamil, affiliation of this terrorist to Jaish-e-Mohammed. He is the eldest brother-in-law of Maulana Masood Azhar, in charge of Markaz Subhanallah in Bahawalpur, actively involved in radical indoctrination of youth and fundraising for the Jaish-e-Mohammed. Also, Khalid or Abu Akasha, affiliation of this terrorist to Lashkar-e-Taiba, involved in multiple terror attacks in Jammu and Kashmir, engaged in weapons smuggling from Afghanistan. Funeral was held in Faisalabad, attended by senior Pakistani Army officials and the Deputy Commissioner of Faisalabad. Muhammad Hassan Khan, affiliation of this man to Jaish-e-Mohammed again, the son of Mufti Asghar Khan Kashmiri, operational commander of Jaish-e-Mohammed in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, POK, played a key role in coordinating terror attacks in Jammu and Kashmir. Mohammad Yusuf Azhar, another terrorist was taken down by our forces, also known as Ustad Ji, Muhammad Salim, Ghosi Sahab. These were his names. Affiliation to Jaish-e-Mohammed, brother-in-law of Maulana Masood Azhar, handled weapons training for the Jaish, involved in multiple terrorist attacks in Jammu and Kashmir, and wanted in connection with the IC-814 hijacking case. The International Monetary Fund has approved a $1 billion loan and an additional $1.4 billion climate fund for Pakistan, raising eyebrows in New Delhi. This move comes just days after Pakistan sponsored Pahalgam terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir. Yes, Mom.
26 lives lost in the tranquil town of Pahalgam. A brutal reminder of the persistent threat of terrorism. India points to Pakistan-backed terrorists as the perpetrators. In the wake of the massacre, India launched a diplomatic offensive, urging global powers to recognize and act against Pakistan and its state-sponsored terrorism. Yet just days later, the International Monetary Fund approved a $1 billion loan to Pakistan. This was not all. It was supplemented by a $1.3 billion climate fund, decisions that India perceives as overlooking its grave concerns. In the absence of a negative vote, the only choice India had was to abstain. Its opposition to the move, especially in light of the escalated military activity in the past 72 hours, was ignored by the IMF and by the Western world. In a statement, the Finance Ministry said that India had raised concerns over the efficacy of the loan and also on the possibility of misuse of the funds being used for state-sponsored cross-border terrorism. It added that Pakistan had a very poor record of adherence to the IMF's program conditions. The statement also pointed out that Pakistan had been rescued by the IMF 28 times in the past 35 years, and had the previous programs succeeded, Pakistan would not have approached the fund for yet another bailout program.
Conditionalities of these loans will be monitored very clearly by the IMF. But, in most of the cases, there is a possibility for justifying certain expenses, which the IMF organization has to acknowledge, has to inspect and acknowledge. So let's wait and see how they are going to do that. But the fact remains that this could not have been rejected, since we did not have support of 50% of the members' voting rights.
On the social media, the reaction has been a mix of flippant and contemptuous. India's high-profile weddings cost more. It's loose change for the traders in Chandni Chowk. India has not taken an IMF loan since 1993, is how social media users responded to India's perceived diplomatic setback. Even the opposition was furious at IMF's move.
Very unfortunate that the IMF has sanctioned a loan of $1 billion. I would call it a loan to the militant organization over there, when they know for a fact that it is Pakistan which is promoting, financing terrorism against India. And this money, you mark my words, will never be used to eradicate poverty, to ensure that the polio rates in Pakistan come down. It will never be used for women empowerment in Pakistan of education. This will be used only, it will be used to promote terrorist activities against India. That is most unfortunate.
The G7 nations condemned the Pahalgam attack and called for de-escalation between India and Pakistan. However, their support for the IMF's decision has raised questions about their commitment to addressing terrorism concerns in South Asia. The timing of the IMF's loan approval, especially after such a significant terrorist attack and the midst of escalating tensions in the subcontinent, sends a conflicting message. It also raises question of the efficacy of the IMF system, priorities of the West, and why the decision could not have been deferred by a few weeks. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
Story we are breaking at this hour. It's a key security meeting, a huddle which is underway at Prime Minister Narendra Modi's residence as we speak, where the Indian In fact, the IAF and Navy chiefs both, in fact, have reached the Prime Minister's residence. The Tri-Services chiefs have reached the Prime Minister's house. The CDS, General Chauhan, also is present at this meeting. It's a big security huddle after the announcement of ceasefire that first was made by US President Donald Trump and then reiterated by India and then later by Pakistan at 5 in the evening yesterday. It's a security meeting which the leaders are in right now at the Prime Minister's residence as we speak. A key security huddle at Prime Minister Narendra Modi's residence where the Chief of the Defence Staff, the Indian Air Force Chief and also the Navy Chief, essentially of the Tri-Services chiefs, are there. Piyush is tracking those details. A key meeting underway at the Prime Minister's house. Obviously to review the situation and to give the Prime Minister an overview of how the developments have been past 5 p.m. last evening when the ceasefire was first announced. Piyush.
Well, Sneha, as we are speaking, a very important meeting is also to begin at 7 Lok Kalyan Marg, the residence of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, because all Tri-Services chiefs have reached here. 3 Tri-Services chiefs are right now present inside the Prime Minister's residence, and Chief of Civil Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan is also present. So that's a very important meeting which is all set to begin at Prime Minister's residence, and this meeting has also come in the wake of a ceasefire which has been agreed with Pakistan. Remember, Sneha, that it is the first big meet taking place after the decision which was taken by the government. Yesterday also there was a meeting with Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, but today we are now seeing the meeting taking place in which all Tri-Services chiefs are present, and they arrived a couple of minutes back. Most likely they are going to discuss about the current situation. All officials are also likely to brief about what Pakistan did yesterday. Despite having an understanding on ceasefire, we saw how Pakistan violated ceasefire multiple times and also tried to send drones. Though we have given a befitting reply to Pakistan and all the attempts were thwarted of Pakistan. And after that, after yesterday's developments, this is the first meeting which is now taking place at a Prime Minister's residence. The Prime Minister would certainly be briefed about the current situation. In the last more than 2 weeks, we have seen Prime Minister himself chairing a lot of meetings, beginning with PM Narendra Modi cutting short his Saudi Arabia visit and holding a briefing with NS Ajit Doval, S. Jaishankar and various other officials. And after that, he has chaired 3 CCS meetings since then. In the last few days, the Prime Minister has met Defence Minister Rajnath Singh multiple times. In fact, Rajnath Singh has also chaired meeting with Tri-Services chiefs and NS Ajit Doval. So multiple meetings have taken place so far. But right as we are speaking, our Tri-Services chief are right now present at 7 Lok Kalyan Marg, and they are in a meeting with PM Narendra Modi. After this meeting comes to an end, we will be able to know about the details of this meeting. But sources are suggesting that the armed forces are here to brief Prime Minister about the current situation. They are at LOC and the ceasefire which we agreed upon with Pakistan, and the kind of attempts those have so far been made by Pakistan.
All right, I'm going to leave it at that for the moment, Piyush, but we'll come back to you for more details on that big story in just some time from now. It's time for a break. We are staying with developments from the Prime Minister's residence, where there is an important meeting of the Tri-Services chiefs. The CDS, the Chief of the Defence Staff, is there as well. That continues to be our top focus. Pausing for a quick breather here.
Open on TV. Motorola Edge 60 Pro. Hello, Moto.
An India Today world exclusive. 2010 India Today inside Muridke.
A safe haven for terrorists. Pakistan uses terror as part of state policy.
2025 Muridke terror hubs wiped out.
Big story coming in. Murid K has been targeted. Oh my God, the terror epicenter has been targeted. Information just coming in. Indian missiles have struck the Lashkar-e-Taiba headquarters. Murid K has been bombed. It's a big, big story. This is India's Operation Sindoor.
The line of clarity with God of Sawan. Only on India Today. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
All right, a top focus story continues to be the ceasefire that perhaps wasn't, because Pakistan, remember, violated it 3 hours after it was announced by India. The Prime Minister also right now as we speak is in a huddle with the chiefs of tri-services and also the chief of the defense staff at his residence. Operation Sindoor continues to be our top focus story right here. A very good morning. You're watching India Today. A quick check of the headlines first. Hours after India agreed to a ceasefire that is an understanding, not an agreement, Pakistan violated truce in multiple locations. India retaliated by shooting down Pakistan drones. Normalcy prevails in Amritsar and Jaisalmer in Srinagar after late evening ceasefire violations and tense calm overnight. Red alert ended, locals out on streets early Sunday morning. DJMO level meets between India and Pakistan tomorrow at noon. Prime Minister Modi chairs crucial huddle in his residence with tri-services chiefs. Sources tell India today that India's ceasefire with Pakistan is a conditional one and that there is no change in India's position on the suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty. US President offers to mediate on Kashmir, says we'll see if there can be Kashmir solution in 1,000 years. And we have some news just coming in. It's a key security huddle at Prime Minister Modi's residence that we just told you about. We have information now that the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval are at the Prime Minister's residence. Tri-services chiefs have also reached Prime Minister Modi's residence. Piyush is getting in more details. The Chief of the Defence Staff also present at this meeting. Undoubtedly a big security huddle to assess the situation after things changed rapidly after the announcement of truce last evening. Piyush.
Well, certainly, Sneha, this is a big meeting which is right now underway at PM Narendra Modi's residence, and in this meeting, all tri-services chiefs are present. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has just arrived. National Security Advisor Ajit Doval is also present here, and this meeting is right now underway at the Prime Minister's residence. Remember that in the last 3 to 4 days, we have seen how Prime Minister has been consistently holding these meetings and getting, reports from all the officials. He's also being briefed by National Security Advisor Ajit Doval on regular basis. And today, this meeting has a lot of importance because this is the first big meeting which is taking place after the ceasefire violation which was done by Pakistan, despite agreeing on the ceasefire yesterday at around 5 p.m. What we are now learning is that the meeting is right now going on, and Mr. Ajit Doval is going to brief Prime Minister about the current developments, and after that the Prime Minister is also going to seek information from all tri-services chiefs. In fact, Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan is also present in this meeting. So it is a very crucial huddle, Sneha, which is going on at the Prime Minister's residence. Since Pahalgam terror attack, we have seen Prime Minister holding multiple meetings. According to data available, Prime Minister has held more than 25 meetings in which he has been personally monitoring each and every development. NSC Ajit Doval, during the operations also when our armed forces were carrying out against Pakistan, at the time Doval was briefing Prime Minister on each and every update. In fact, Prime Minister was himself monitoring when we had hit 9 targets in Pakistan and the terror camps were targeted. So Prime Minister has been closely monitoring every development. He initially chaired all the meetings. He was not only briefed, but he also himself gave his own inputs to the officials. And after that, we saw how successful Operation Sindoor was carried out. The night of the operation when we carried out, on the very next day, we also saw Prime Minister chaired Cabinet Committee on Security meeting, Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs meetings. So multiple meetings are there which Prime Minister has personally been chairing. And today, as we are speaking, he is in a meeting with our 3 tri-services chiefs. CDS Anil Chauhan is also there. At the same time, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is also present. National Security Advisor Ajit Doval is also briefing Prime Minister. Yesterday in the evening also there was a meeting between all these officials. But this is the first meeting which is underway. This is the first meeting which is taking place after once again ceasefire violation which was done by Pakistan yesterday at around 8:35 p.m. We'll have to see if the government is going to move ahead with some sort of decisions, or this meeting has been called to seek information about the current developments. Those are there on the border areas.
Getting in those details, I'm just going to come back to you in a moment from now. Shivani also continues to be with us. Shivani, a big concern for India at this point in time as far as the announcement of ceasefire is concerned is that this is the country, Pakistan, our neighbor, that can't be trusted. After the developments that were witnessed, after the announcement of truce in the evening at 5, what I want to know is this: what is India's strategy? This is something that is going to be, chalked out in the meeting on how India needs to continue to, up not just the ante, but also be on its guard when it comes to dealing with Pakistan.
Sneha, the developments since the ceasefire was announced last evening were not as they should have been, especially from Pakistan's side. The way it multiple times breached the ceasefire along the line of control and also the airspace where it was launching drones. And yesterday also, because we were there, our reporters have been there, our colleagues have been reporting from there. There were not less than 400 to 500 swarm drones that were being sent into Indian territory, to which there was an emergency response by the Foreign Secretary. And remember, after the ceasefire was announced, there was a meeting that Prime Minister chaired that was being considered as a debrief for the assessment of the security. But now, this huddle that has been called by the Prime Minister, which also includes the NSA, the CDS, the Three Service Chief, seems to be, and the Raksha Mantri, of course, seems to be a development that was not being scheduled for the day, but only took place after the developments of last night, after Pakistan's misadventures once again. Because, there was a program that was scheduled for Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh at 11, and now because of this meeting, it has been postponed by 1 hour. So we can well understand that the meeting that has been called by the Prime Minister was not scheduled initially, but it has been called after what Pakistan has been doing in last evening. So what we understand from the huddle that goes on, that besides keeping the guards up, Prime Minister also is assessing the situation and how country should go ahead in terms of our security planning in the days to come, because we cannot trust Pakistan. So it's very important not only to debrief and understand how last 5 days have gone by, but to make a very important decision or a preparation plan for upcoming days too. So that's why we understand this meeting is going on, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi is meeting the CDS along with Raksha Mantri, the NSA and all the service chiefs. Back to you, Sneha.
Shivani Sharma getting in those details, and also Piyush Mishra with us, the Prime Minister meeting Armed Forces Chiefs and NSA. This is important from the point of view of this being actually the first meeting after the ceasefire A was announced and then quickly violated by Pakistan. Hours after India announced this agreement had been reached with Pakistan, following Islamabad's initiation of truce talks, Pakistan violated this agreement. Late in the evening, Pakistan launched artillery shelling and drone activity was reported along the international border and also the line of control in multiple locations. India responded swiftly and decisively, neutralizing the threat. Indian forces are currently monitoring the situation, have been instructed to respond strongly to Pakistan's provocation.
For the last few hours, there have been repeated violations of the understanding arrived at earlier this evening between the Directors General of Military Operations of India and Pakistan. This is a breach of the understanding arrived at earlier today. The armed forces are giving an adequate and appropriate response to these violations, and we take very, very serious notice of these violations. We call upon Pakistan to take appropriate steps to address these violations and deal with the situation with seriousness and responsibility. The armed forces are maintaining a strong vigil on the situation. They have been given instructions to deal strongly with any instances of a repetition of the violations of the borders along the international border as well as the line of control.
Shivani continues to be with us, and so does Piyush. Piyush, you know, it's significant, this meeting, certainly from the point of view of this being the first security huddle, essentially after the big announcement of a ceasefire, and that too by US President Donald Trump, isn't it?
Well, certainly, Sneha, this is an important meeting which is underway at the Prime Minister's residence, where he would certainly be briefed about the current situation there at LOC and the kind of attempts those have been made by Pakistan. After this meeting, we can expect some sort of conclusion also, or decisions taken by the government. But in the last 4 to 5 days, Sneha, we have seen Prime Minister himself chairing such meetings, and after that, some actions have also been seen there at Porters, and in which we have strongly replied back, in which we have given befitting response to Pakistan to its misadventures.
That's right. Shivani, also getting in these details at this point in time as far as that big meeting is concerned. The assessment of the situation, not just at the LOC, but various areas including civilian areas that Pakistan has systematically targeted, the threat perception and how things can change swiftly is something that's going to be looked at very closely by the forces and the Prime Minister to assess the situation on what next as far as justice for Pahalgam is concerned. And also remember, at the end of the day, the terrorists who were behind the horrific Pahalgam attack, specifically those people, those terrorists are still missing, and that's something that India and our leadership would be looking at very closely, isn't it?
Sneha, what we are seeing in last 5 days has been an intense action against the terror outfits inside Pakistan's territory, but the intense action against terror outfits inside Jammu and Kashmir is still continuing, especially where we have been reporting from. There are interior districts and villages where we see that the OGWs have been already booked. There are hundreds of suspects who are being questioned each day. Even today morning we were reporting of one such investigation that goes on. So the overall security situation is being monitored by Prime Minister Narendra Modi when it comes to Jammu Kashmir, the western border, those 26 places where Pakistan tried to send the drones, tried to attack with missiles, important systems, the military installations that were inflicted with limited damage that was being reported by the Foreign Secretary also yesterday in the briefings. So it's very important to understand that the international border, the line of control situation has been in a temporary pause of fire after the ceasefire was maintained. But the overall situation remains on a high alert by the Indian forces and also the topmost leadership of the country, where the Operation Sindoor against terror will continue forever, because we've already given this message very strong that any act of terror will be considered an act of war. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi perhaps is now looking for the next action plan after the ceasefire was violated, after announcement by Pakistan. So this is another important hurdle that has been witnessed. Similar such hurdles have been witnessed in the national capital in past 15 days. So this is one more such meeting, and we expect that more such meetings will happen in days to come, because the situation here is on a high alert. Sneha.
Situation on high alert continues to be extremely fluid, doesn't it? Shivani, Piyush, be with us. Coming back to you in a moment. By early morning, the situation in many parts of the areas that had come under attack seem to be returning to normalcy. In areas like Amritsar, for example, the red alert was lifted after yesterday's blackout and violation of the ceasefire on the part of Pakistan. It seems the situation is going back or returning to normalcy. People were seen on the streets across various locations. Our teams, our reporters are on ground zero, gauging the public mood and the public sentiment.
Residents of Rajouri are picking up their lives right again. Look at this. People out here on the streets once again, opening up the shops. What we're trying to show to you, the devastation here, but this is the resilience of the people, because remember, they have seen a lot in the past few days. Tense times, sleepless nights. We'll just try and get you a sense. This shop has just been opened. Sir, आप ये बताइए, एक बार फिर दुकान खोली है, जिंदगी पटरी पर आ रही है, क्योंकि नुकसान हुआ, हम देख रहे हैं कि शीशे वगैरह टूटे हुए हैं, और लेकिन यहाँ पे हम देख रहे हैं कि आप लोग पूरी तरह से कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि चीजें वापस पटरी पर आएं।
देखो, हर बंदे की यही कोशिश होती है कि वापस पटरी पे आए, क्योंकि रोजी रोटी रोजगार हर बंदे का यहीं से स्टार्ट होता है, और खाना क्या करना क्या है, और कोशिश करेंगे कि इसको दोबारा से इंस्टॉलमेंट करें, तैयार करवाएं और चलाएं काम अपना।
अच्छा, so let's just try and get more people. Sir, ceasefire को वेलकम करते हैं आप?
वेलकम तो करना ही है, और क्या, वेलकम तो करना हमने। हम थोड़े जोड़ रहे हैं कि जंगी हो तो फर्स्ट क्लास उम्र रह रहे थे, कोई लड़ाई झगड़ा नहीं है हमारा, यहाँ तो कुछ है नहीं है मसला। तो ये अगर सीज फायर हो गया तो अच्छी बात है, उसमें तो
काफी रजौरी में नुकसान भी हुआ है, जाने भी गए हैं
बहुत। अभी मैं ऊपर से आ रहा हूँ, यहाँ ये ऊपर एक रेडी वाले, ऊपर वाले रेडी वाले भी जो ठीक है, नीचे वाले भी ठीक है, बीच में से सिलेंडर सारा सामान उसका बेचारा गरीब आदमी था उठा के ले गया। ये हालत है यहाँ।
See the number of people who've been going around, and this is also an indication that people are now trying. Look at that lady out there. She's back in her residence, and this is where what we can tell you is the resilience that people have shown here. This is where what we can tell you that eventually there would be life back on track.
We are in the city of Amritsar. It's the same city which has seen a lot of tension day before yesterday when the Pakistan did misadventure and fired drones around this, which was shot down by the Indian troops. But now the ceasefire has happened, and Amritsar administration has also flashed a message that everything is normal, the red alert is over. So you can see around me, the people are out in the street, enjoying their morning breakfast, enjoying their morning tea, and these are the scenes in Amritsar, which is a big breather for them. And we'll talk to the people here who have come here in the morning that what this morning means to them.
माहौल से तो खुश हैं, लेकिन ये जो हुआ है वो गलत हुआ है। मैं तब खुश था जब सीज फायर हुआ था। सीज फायर हुआ था कि सब काम चलेंगे सबके।
देखिए, सभी लोग यही चाहते थे कि अमन शांति बनी रहे, और इसलिए अब नया नोटिस आया है 8:15 बजे के अमन शांति मतलब सीज फायर हो गया है। तो इसीलिए तो सब लोग खुशी की लहर दौड़ गई है सभी में। The Amritsar administration also flashing messages that the red alert is over. So you can see people out here. From Amritsar with camera person Chandis, Hasim Basi, India Today.
भारत और पाकिस्तान के बीच सीज फायर जो है वो हो चुका हुआ है, जिसके बाद लोगों ने राहत की सांस भी ली है, क्योंकि फिरोजपुर सरहदी इलाका था, यहाँ पर लोग जो है वो रह रहे थे, लेकिन जो तनाव की स्थिति परसों रात को बनी थी, जिसके बाद कल प्रशासन के द्वारा पूरा दिन एहतियात के तौर पर दुकानों का मुकम्मल जो है वो पाबंदी लगाई थी कि दुकानें ना खोली जाएं। लेकिन अब आज फिरोजपुर में सुबह से ही लोग अपना जो है कारोबार शुरू कर चुके हुए हैं। आप तस्वीरों में मेरे पीछे देख सकते हैं कि लोग अपने घरों से निकलकर जो है वो अपनी दुकानों पर आ चुके हुए हैं। अपना व्यापार उनके द्वारा शुरू कर लिया गया हुआ है। अपनी नॉर्मल ज़िंदगी जो है वो दोबारा से शुरू कर दी गई है। जहां पर लगातार सरहद पर तनाव बना हुआ था, दोनों तरफ से जो है वो पाकिस्तान के द्वारा लगातार हमले किए जा रहे थे, लेकिन भारतीय जो आर्मी है उसके द्वारा उनका मुंह तोड़ जवाब दिया जा रहा था, जिसके कारण लोग भी सुरक्षित अपने आप को महसूस कर रहे थे कि हमारे पास ऐसी आर्मी है जो हम तक आंच नहीं आने देगी। लेकिन आज सुबह से ही लोग जो है अपने घरों से खुले आम जो है बाहर निकल रहे हैं और बेचिंतित होकर अपना व्यापार जो है वो शुरू कर दिया हुआ है।
भारत पाकिस्तान के बीच सीज फायर की घोषणा के बाद आप देख सकते हैं किस तरह से यहाँ पर जैसलमेर में सामान्य स्थिति है। जो लॉकडाउन की स्थिति बनी हुई थी 3-4 दिनों से, लोग अपने घरों से बाहर निकल रहे हैं। सुबह सुबह यातायात सामान्य दिख रहा है, दुकानों पर चहल पहल है, बाजार और सुबह सुबह ही गुलजार नज़र आ रहे हैं। कल जैसे ही सीज फायर की घोषणा हुई, यहाँ पर लोग जीत का जश्न मनाने के लिए आ गए थे, मगर धीरे धीरे खबरें आने लगी कि इंटरनेशनल बॉर्डर पर सीमा पार से ड्रोन देखे जा रहे हैं, मार के गिराए जा रहे हैं। जैसलमेर में धमाके की आवाज़ आ रही है। उसके बाद जैसे ही विदेश मंत्रालय ने कड़ी चेतावनी दी और सेना को कठोर कदम उठाने के लिए खुली छूट दी, पूरे पश्चिमी सीमा पर श्रीगंगानगर, बीकानेर, हनुमानगढ़, जैसलमेर, बाड़मेर कहीं से भी कोई गोलीबारी या फिर ड्रोन देखे जाने या फिर किसी मिसाइल, किसी भी तरह की कोई घटना नहीं हुई। पूरी तरह से शांति है।
श्रीगंगानगर और बीकानेर के बाजार अब पूरी तरह से खुल चुके हैं और लोग बागों ने जब सीज फायर होने की खबर सुनी तो कुछ राहत की सांस भी ली। हालांकि बीती रात पाकिस्तान की तरफ से आसमान में फ्लाइंग ऑब्जेक्ट्स देखे गए थे और उसके बाद लोगों ने इस बात की सूचना पुलिस प्रशासन को भी दी।
इन फ्लाइंग ऑब्जेक्ट्स की जो गतिविधियां थी वो 11 बजे से पहले थी और जैसे ही विदेश मंत्रालय की प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस हुई उसके बाद में पाकिस्तान की तरफ से किसी भी तरह की हरकत को आसमान में नहीं देखा गया। देखिए, बाजार खुल चुके हैं, लोग बाग तरह तरह की बातें कर रहे हैं। जिस तरह से डोनाल्ड ट्रंप ने सीज फायर की एक्स पर घोषणा की, उसके बाद में जो लोगों में युद्ध को लेकर आशंकाएं थी वो समाप्त हुई है। बाजार देखिए खुल चुके हैं, लोग बाग यहाँ पर जुटे हुए हैं, बैठे हुए हैं, चर्चाएं कर रहे हैं, अपने रोजमर्रा का कामकाज जो है वो शुरू कर दिया है। परंतु लोगों को ऐसा लगता है कि कहीं न कहीं पाकिस्तान अगर फिर से कोई हरकत करेगा तो इस बार भी भारतीय सेना और भारत की सरकार पाकिस्तान को माकूल जवाब देगी।
And India has toughened its war doctrine against Pakistan, declaring that any future act of terror is going to be considered an act of war and will be responded to accordingly. This highlights India's zero tolerance towards terrorism and sends out a strong message to Pakistan amid the recent provocations. Not just this, even the United States has admitted that Pakistan poses a threat to global security. Under international law, an act of war refers to actions taken by one state against another that involve the use of armed force or aggression, typically signaling the start of an armed conflict or war. With this decision, India has drawn clear red lines against terror incidents and made it clear to Pakistan that it will respond firmly to the perpetrators of terrorism.
You worked very closely with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. What was different and what led to this very changed response, this very aggressive response by India to Pakistan's state-sponsored terror? We've been suffering this terror for decades, Ambassador.
No, absolutely. But the difference under Prime Minister Modi's leadership is that 2016, there was the Uri attack. We had a response. Our special operations team went across the border and eliminated a few of the terrorist camps that were there. 2019, we had Pulwama, and we saw strikes across the border by our Air Force. This time, in the wake of the Pahalgam terrorist attack, I think Op Sindoor was a fitting response to that heinous act that was perpetrated by terrorists that was sponsored by Pakistan. And but our actions were very calibrated, that we hit the terrorist camps. Those terrorists that were directly responsible for Pahalgam were hit. The Lashkar-e-Toiba, their headquarters was hit. Some of their main operatives were eliminated. Similarly with the Jaish-e-Mohammed. So I think we have avenged the memory of those of our citizens who were gunned down so mercilessly in Pahalgam. We have maintained since then a very firm an uncompromising position, but at the same time, we have not gone beyond. I mean, we could have done a lot more. We could have gone out and hammered the Pakistanis on all fronts. But what we did was a very proportionate, a very calibrated strike, not only in Op Sindoor, but subsequently in response to Pakistani kinetic actions. I think we had also been very firm in our response. And as Minister Dr. Jaishankar said, he said that, we will be firm in our response to any escalation that Pakistan undertakes.
And after days of military conflict that put the world on the edge, India and Pakistan agreed to a ceasefire which was initiated by the neighbor itself. The truce came into effect at 5 last evening, hours after Indian missiles hit multiple military targets, including 8 key air bases in Pakistan. However, this ceasefire didn't last long. Pakistan resorted to shelling along the Yellow Sea at multiple locations just 3 hours later. Meanwhile, sources have told us that the ceasefire with Pakistan is actually a conditional one and that there is no change in India's position on suspension of the Indus Water Treaty, for example. Also that United States played a role in de-escalation by placing direct pressure on Pakistan in linking the provisional release of a $1 billion IMF loan to immediate acceptance of the ceasefire, with the remainder contingent on full compliance. Now that Pakistan has violated the ceasefire, it remains to be seen how the US will respond. India today has also learned that the United States has formally acknowledged India's revised war doctrine that stipulates that any future terrorist attack is going to be treated as an act of war. In an India Today World exclusive, in a list accessed terrorist Abu Jindal to Masood's kin, top 5 Lashkar and Jaish terrorists wiped out in Operation Sindoor. Who are they? Here's more.
A 25-minute multi-domain assault on 9 terror camps in Pakistan and POK. Terror hotbeds reduced to rubble. Most wanted terrorists and terror pads destroyed by Indian forces in a precise strike. Exclusive information accessed by India Today reveals the elimination of over 100 terrorists on May 7. Among those killed in Operation Sindoor were 5 top operatives from Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed involved in planning and executing attacks against India. Sources say Indian forces neutralized Mudassar Khadian Khas, also known as Abu Jundal, an LET terrorist who was in charge of Markaz Taiba in Muridke. Jundal received a guard of honor at his funeral from Pakistan Army. Among the attendees were a serving Lieutenant General and IG of Punjab Police. The prayer was led by US designated Lashkar terrorist Hafiz Abdul Rauf. Another key target eliminated was Jaish-e-Mohammed's Hafiz Muhammad Jamil, the eldest brother-in-law of Masood Azhar. Jamil was in charge of Markaz Subhanallah in Bahawalpur. He was involved in radical indoctrination and fundraising for JEM. Also killed was Muhammad Yusuf Azhar, known by several aliases including Ustad Ji and Muhammad Salim. A Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorist, Yusuf Azhar was brother-in-law of Masood Azhar. He was the weapons trainer for JEM. He was also suspect in the Kandahar IC-814 hijacking and linked to multiple terror attacks in Jammu and Kashmir. Another top Lashkar operative, Khalid, alias Abu Aksha, was also confirmed dead. He had orchestrated multiple terror strikes in Jammu and Kashmir. Khalid was involved in weapons smuggling from Afghanistan. The fifth high-value target was Muhammad Hassan Khan, a next-generation Jaish leader. He was a son of Mufti Asghar Khan Kashmiri, an operational commander of the Jaish-e-Mohammed in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Hassan Khan coordinated terror operations in Jammu and Kashmir. Operation Sindoor was not just retaliatory but a show of India's resolve and capability in dismantling terror infrastructure. The operation followed the April 22nd terror attack in Pahalgam that left 26 dead. Bureau Report, India Today.
Pakistan fired drones and missiles in India in a pre-dawn strike. India's 26 strategic and military facilities were on target. In retaliation, India successfully struck 6 key Pakistani air bases, inflicting heavy damage on military installations. A total of 8 military bases in Pakistan has been destroyed by India.
Hours before the ceasefire on Saturday, India carried out precision strikes at 11 military targets of Pakistan. The Indian strike was in retaliation to another round of aerial attacks by Pakistan. In an assault that started on Friday night, Pakistani forces used drones, long-range missiles and fighter jets to target 26 locations, including key Indian air bases. In a grave escalation, Pakistan also used Fatah-1 missiles. Indian air defense system thwarted most of these attempts. Pakistan also resorted to firing across the border using heavy caliber weapons.
Pakistan employed UCAV, drones, long-range weapons, loitering munitions and fighter aircraft to target civilian areas and military infrastructure. Pakistan military also resorted to air intrusions using drones and firing of heavy caliber weapons along the line of control.
In a befitting and calibrated response, India carried out precision strikes at 8 military targets of Pakistan. The strikes were carried out on technical installations, command and control centers, radar sites and weapons arsenal of Pakistan. The locations targeted by India include Noor Khan Air Base in Rawalpindi, Rahim Yar Khan Air Base, Joint Staff Headquarters in Chaklala, Sukur Air Base, Pasroor radar site, Sialkot aviation base, military installations in Rafiki, Murid and Chunia. Indian attack inflicted damage on 4 air bases. These are Noor Khan in Rawalpindi that houses IL-78 refueler and Hercules, Rahim Yar Khan which has JF-17s, Rafiki Air Base which also houses JF-17 aircraft, and Murid Air Base where fleets of unmanned drones are kept.
रफीकी, मुरीद, चकलाला, रहमयार खान, सुकूर और चुनिया स्थित पाक के सैन्य ठिकानों पर एयर लॉन्च सटीक हथियारों व लड़ाकू जेट से प्रहार किए गए। पसरूर स्थित रडार साइट और सियालकोट का एविएशन बेस भी प्रिसीजन एम्यूनिशन से टारगेट किए गए। इन कार्रवाइयों के दौरान भारत ने कम से कम कोलैटरल डैमेज की क्षति सुनिश्चित की।
India and Pakistan had seemed to be climbing up the escalatory ladder in a dramatic fashion when the ceasefire was announced in an equally dramatic manner Saturday evening. Bureau Report, India Today.
The report and much more is always up on our website. That's indiatoday.in. You can also download the India Today app. News continues right here. Thank you for watching.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro, the edge of excellence.
Open on TV. Motorola Edge 60 Pro. Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro, the edge of excellence.
Hi, here are the top headlines presented by Motorola. Hours after India announced ceasefire, Pakistan violates truce, peace in border areas, no news of any firing since late night, no change in India's position on the suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty.
I'm Shivani Sharma reporting from line of control in the Uri sector where the situation remains tense.
People staying at line of control have started to move out.
Level of tension between India and Pakistan is too high.
There is a sense of fear and there is a sense of apprehension of rising escalation.
The situation along this border also stays tense.
I am Brijesh Doshi reporting from the village which is just 40 kilometers away from the Pakistan.
I'm Sharad Kumar reporting from Jaisalmer.
Right behind me at 800 meters, there's an international border with Pakistan.
We are reporting from Gurdaspur near the international border.
I'm Mir Farid from war zone Jammu and Kashmir.
This is Anmol Nath Bali, Devankur Vadhavan,
Naseem Basir,
Shivani Sharma,
Ashraf Wani,
Kamaljeet Sandhu,
Mosmi Singh.
This is Ashutosh Mishra reporting somewhere near the line of control in Naushera sector for India Today.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
And India Today's Gaurav Sawant spoke with strategic affairs expert Brahma Chelani on the recent ceasefire between India and Pakistan brokered by the US. Listen in.
Are we, in a way, not learning any lesson from history? 1948, we were told we were just about to get back. Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and we went to the United Nations. In 1965, we agreed to Tashkent. In 1971, we did not sort out Jammu and Kashmir. And now, once again, when Pakistan was virtually on its knees, we've agreed to a ceasefire.
You're right. It underlines India's long political tradition of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Snatching defeat from the jaws of victory has become a recurring pattern, which is why India continues to repeat history. We never learn from history, so history repeats itself. 1948, 1954, 1960, 1966, Haji Pir being returned, then becomes the launch pad later for Pakistan to infiltrate terrorists into India. Similar, 1972, we give away our war gains at the negotiating table without securing anything in return from Pakistan. 2021, we vacate the strategic Kailash Heights, forfeiting our only bargaining chip in negotiations, and then we agree to Chinese-designed buffer zones in Ladakh areas. And now, Operation Sindoor. Operation Sindoor had such powerful symbolism.
Yes.
Of India's women avenging the murder of 26 husbands. And yet, today, the way we ended this operation after the Pakistanis even fired a missile at Delhi leaves many questions unanswered. I can tell you one thing, Gaurav. History will not look at India too kindly over what it has done today.
You know, my understanding and in my limited understanding is India, we showed our military might. Pakistan now knows about our strategic weaknesses and advantages and our strengths. It knows the weaknesses in its air defense system. The moment it gets this $2.1 billion tranche from the World Bank or from the IMF, and it gets more money, the first thing it will do will invest in better air defense system. We may not be lucky next time. 2 years down the line, it will train more terrorists, probably shift them a little deeper and bleed us once again.
We had so many advantages this time. The geopolitical environment was in our favor. The Americans did not criticize India for its military strikes, unlike in 2016, unlike in 2019, when the US criticized India for initiating strikes across the border. In fact, the US gave us carte blanche. Go ahead, as long as you do not do things that leads to a full-fledged war. So we had an open field. We decimated, as you point out, we decimated their air defense systems, their radar systems. We could have devastated the Pak military. We could have humiliated them, which is what our objective should have been.
Absolutely.
Humiliating the Pak military that has oppressed the Pakistanis for decades. A humiliated Pak military would have faced the wrath of the Pakistani people. It would have been our salvation. And today, we allowed the Pak military to save face.
Or maybe, and I just want to understand this from you, have we punished them enough because we've exposed them? They're humiliated in front of their awam. They know their strategic weaknesses and they know they can do nothing about it because of what is going to happen in Baluchistan, what can happen in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and there will be freedom struggles across Pakistan because they know this oppressive Pakistani Punjabi army was only oppressing them, enriching itself, and when push comes to shove, they're not even able to protect their country, not even Pakistan's Punjab. So that army is humiliated. Now, if we had pushed them a little more, they could have done something, one, either stupid, or they could have, you know, that dirty N-word, perhaps give the next small bomb to Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed, and they would have said, you know, just say whatever you want to say and just blast it somewhere. So we've kind of saved the day, and, you know, we're still moving forward.
Well, clearly, in the battle of rival political wills, we have proved weaker, Gaurav. We have proved weaker. That's the reason why, for 4 decades, Pakistan has waged this proxy warfare against the larger, stronger India. They have made up for the power asymmetry with India with stronger political will. They've always looked at India as a weak-willed country. This Operation Sindoor will reinforce the impression that India is weak-willed. After just 3 days of Operation Sindoor, we terminated. After just 3 days. 3 days. We expected in 3 days we would be able to teach Pakistan a lesson. Is that militarily possible? When we began this operation, we must have had some clear objectives that we will be able to endure both risks and costs. After all, even though we had the upper hand, they did inflict costs on us. Yes. They did cause damage. We lost some personnel. We lost some civilians. So we did suffer. So they will turn around.
16 losses of lives. Some of our military stations, as the government seemed to indicate, were in the line of fire. But what I also want to understand from you, we are on an economic growth trajectory, and had we pursued this battle, could we have been sucked into a battle where our economic growth may have been adversely impacted? This is a situation. One, we've decimated the enemy. There is realization. Pakistan also knows it's been absolutely had in this conflict. If they've lost their air bases all the way from Skardu through all of Pakistan's Punjab province, the army has no face. I mean, Asim Munir cannot stand up and face either his core commanders or even his nation. Not even that Pakistani Punjab would look up to him anymore. Now we can concentrate on our economy and we can continue to punish them should they misbehave.
Gaurav, you raise a very good question. First, the Pak military generals are not going to reveal their losses. They will cover up the damage and the losses they have suffered. They will present whatever they've done as victory against India. Let's be clear on that. They will not be admitting that they came out poorly from this engagement with India. Yeah. They will in fact feel emboldened by the fact that India could not continue with this operation for more than 3 days. As far as the economic aspect is concerned, you're right. Investor confidence takes a hit. India will suffer. But look at Mumbai, what happened in Mumbai.
Yes.
Massacre of 2008.
Yes.
That really dented international investor confidence. It did inflict invisible costs on India that lasted several years. Once you begin a military operation, you factor in the economic costs. But when you end an operation inconclusively, you will be paying economic costs for that too.
So classification of aim and maintenance of aim. Is your impression that while we had an aim, we did not maintain it, but the aim that the government had stated was to punish Pakistani terror, which they did when they bombed Muridke, when they bombed Bahawalpur, when they bombed Sialkot, when they bombed the terror launchpads and training camps in POJK. But this is the first time that proper Pakistan proper Punjab has been targeted. It was never done before, and that's a huge loss of prestige for the Pakistan army. Not just the losses to the terrorist organizations, but bombs going off in Rawalpindi, the Noor Khan Air Base being destroyed, all the bases, predominantly they're all in Pakistan's Punjab province.
You're absolutely right. Operation Sindoor represented a paradigm shift in India's strategic posture toward Pakistan. But make no mistake, even if you destroy 9, forget about 9, you destroy 100 bases, terrorist bases in Pakistan. You kill 2,000 terrorists in Pakistan. It doesn't make any difference to the military generals. These terrorist proxies are expendable. They are cannon fodder for the military generals. Pakistan is the world's largest terror factory. They will churn out hundreds more. They don't care about the lives of these terrorist proxies. So what if India struck 9 sites on day 1 of Operation Sindoor? They only care about themselves, about their lives, about their privileges, about their prerogatives, about their infrastructure. That's where we should have gone after. We should have gone after them, not the terrorists who are expendable. We unfortunately from day 1 began sending a wrong message. We began saying we're giving back in equal measure. It's proportionate. It's adequate. I'm using the words of the MEA briefing from yesterday. Proportionate, adequate, and responsible. Well, you have to inflict disproportionate costs on a country that has been bailing you for 4 decades. You can't be, and you're reacting to them. You're saying that we are responding in the same domain, in the same manner as they are doing. So, we were letting them dictate. For example, we never used our naval power because Pakistan didn't use its naval power, so we didn't use their naval power. We were waiting for them to initiate naval hostilities. Then we would have used naval power.
That's such an important point you make. And perhaps over the next several days, we will seek answers to this. And Professor Brahma Chilani, it's always such a pleasure to listen to you, to listen to your thoughts. And this is something that perhaps we'll seek answers to even from the government in the days and weeks ahead. Professor Chilani, for joining me here on India Today. Many thanks.
Gaur Sawant also spoke with former Foreign Secretary Harsh Vardhan Shringla on what his analysis really is of the India-Pakistan ceasefire that was announced Saturday evening. Listen in.
Harsh Vardhan Shringla, former Foreign Secretary of India, also former Ambassador to the United States of America, joining us on this India Today special broadcast. Ambassador, as always, welcome on India Today. Your first thoughts on the ceasefire that's been arrived between India and Pakistan?
Well, I think it was a surprise, let's say, announcement. But if you look at some of the messaging yesterday, we had kept the option open. If the Foreign Secretary had said that we are committed to peace, but the onus is on Pakistan to de-escalate the situation. Unfortunately, Pakistan didn't do it last night. But today, I think they've come around, and there are a number of reasons why they could have come around. One, of course, is that U.S. pressure, and U.S. has exercised its influence on Pakistan to bring them to the table. But I think the other reason lies in what the Ministry of Defense briefing has conveyed to us, that Pakistan's military abilities had been severely degraded. Their radars and their air defense system was degraded. Their critical airfields had been bombed, that the morale of the armed forces is coming down. I don't think they could have sustained this conflict for much longer, and it was in their interest to come to the ceasefire table.
So they were compelled, Ambassador. Is that your understanding? Ambassador, you worked very closely with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. What was different and what led to this very changed response, this very aggressive response by India to Pakistan's state-sponsored terror? We've been suffering this terror for decades, Ambassador.
No, absolutely. But the difference under Prime Minister Modi's leadership is that 2016, there was the Uri attack. we had a response. Our special operations team went across the border and eliminated a few of the terrorist camps that were there. 2019, we had Pulwama, and we saw strikes across the border by our Air Force. This time, in the wake of the Pahalgam terrorist attack, I think Ops Sindoor was a fitting response to that heinous act that was perpetrated by terrorists that was sponsored by Pakistan. And but our actions were very calibrated, that we hit the terrorist camps. Those terrorists that were directly responsible for Pahalgam were hit. The Lashkar-e-Toiba, their headquarters was hit. Some of their main operatives were eliminated. Similarly with the Jaish-e-Mohammed. So I think we have avenged the memory of those of our citizens who were gunned down so mercilessly in Pahalgam. We have maintained since then a very firm and uncompromising position, but at the same time, we have not gone beyond. I mean, we could have done a lot more. We could have gone out and hammered the Pakistanis on all fronts. But what we did was a very proportionate, a very calibrated strike, not only in Ops Sindoor, but subsequently in response to Pakistani kinetic actions. I think we had also been very firm in our response. And as External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar said, he said that we will be firm in our response to any escalation that Pakistan undertakes.
Did
Did
we seek any assistance or intervention from any foreign power? Did Pakistan seek that? What brought about the US intervention in your appreciation, sir?
So as you can see, as you could have seen, that our interlocutors were talking, or our leadership was talking to their interlocutors across the board. It's part of our diplomatic outreach. We were in touch with the United States, with UK, with Russia, with Saudi Arabia, with UAE, a number of countries. I think all of these countries have been made fully aware of our position, our approach to the entire situation, but also I think in terms of the influence they could exercise in Pakistan to ask them to, in their own interests, to climb down from this misadventure that was undertaken in initiating the terrorist attack and then escalating the situation to attack civilian and military installations across northern and western India.
Ambassador, the fact that there is no change is what sources are telling India today in the Indus Waters Treaty being held in abeyance. Now, what signal does that send out, not just to Pakistan, but to the rest of the world, sir?
Yeah, I think the diplomatic and economic and other pressures that we can bring upon and bear on Pakistan will continue to be there. I don't think we're going to relent on that sort of pressure, because we don't believe that Pakistan is going to change its fundamental attitude. The leopard doesn't change its spots, and Pakistan is not going to change its support for cross-border terrorism. In fact, what has been borne out by this incident is Pakistan's own, complicity, the state's complicity in what is happening. Earlier, there was a separation between the state and non-state actors, the terrorists that operated from Pakistan. At least on the face of it, there was a pretense of a gap between the two. Today, there is no gap. We have seen that in the funeral of the terrorists who are proscribed under the UN Security Council's list, there were senior military and civilian officials present, paid actually obeisance during that funeral, which shows that the state is directly involved and culpable when it comes to terrorist action. So
that's such a significant point you're making, Ambassador, and I want you to elaborate on it, and we'll just get those images out of a Pakistan Army general, a corps commander being there, several military officers being there at the funeral of a terrorist. We'll just play out those images. What impression, Pakistani army personnel standing for that namaz-e-janaza, not just in Muridke, but also in Bahawalpur. Is that reason enough, in your appreciation, for Pakistan to be on that either FATF grey list, or more attention to be paid to that 1267 sanctions committee, that Pakistan remains a state sponsor of terror?
I think it makes clear to the international community that the pretense of Pakistan actually, not being a part of that terrorist infrastructure is no longer there. The gloves are off. I think current leadership, the military and the deep state leadership, believe and are part of that effort I would say, encourage and even use terrorism as an instrument of state policy. And that is why our reaction has to be very firm. I believe there is a consideration that we would consider any future act of terrorism as an act of war. And I think we have to take very strong preemptive and deterrent actions to say that if you do this, this is the response. If you do this, this is what will happen. And this has to be made clear to Pakistan and to all of our partners to ensure that they don't indulge in this sort of action again. We have to focus on our development, our growth, our vision of a Viksit Bharat. But at the same time, in order to do that, we need to protect our security, our strategic interests. And to do that, we need a strategic posturing. We need a policy that will contain and preempt any such terrorist actions. And one of them is very strict messaging, very clear messaging. And we should not hesitate to go all the way. And I think this is the hallmark of Prime Minister Modi.
Open on TV. Motorola Edge 60 Pro. Hello, Moto.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Ceasefire that was declared last evening, but perhaps the ceasefire that never was. We're getting you details on how the situation is on the ground in affected areas along the international border and the line of control. Also, the big story we are tracking, the Prime Minister meeting The CDS and also Chiefs of Tri Services, that continues to be our top focus. A very good afternoon. This is India Today. I'm Sneha Mordani. Headlines this Sunday afternoon first. DGML level meeting between India and Pakistan at noon tomorrow. Prime Minister Modi for the moment is chairing a crucial huddle in his residence with Tri Services chiefs. Hours after India agreed to a ceasefire, that is an understanding, not an agreement, Pakistan violated truce in multiple locations. India retaliated by shooting down Pakistan drones. Normalcy prevails in Amritsar, Jaisalmer, Srinagar after late evening ceasefire violations and tense calm overnight. Red alert ends, locals out of streets early Sunday morning. Sources tell India Today that India's ceasefire with Pakistan is a conditional one and that there is no change in India's position on the suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty. US President offers to mediate on Kashmir, says we'll see if there can be Kashmir solution in 1,000 years. A top story hours after India announced agreement that had been reached with Pakistan following Islamabad's initiation of truce talks. Pakistan violated this agreement. Late in the evening, Pakistan launched artillery shelling and drone activity. It was reported along the international border and LOC in multiple locations. India responded swiftly and decisively, neutralizing the threat. Indian forces are currently monitoring the situation and have been instructed to respond strongly to Pakistan's provocation.
For the last few hours, there have been repeated violations of the understanding arrived at earlier this evening between the Directors General of Military Operations of India and Pakistan. This is a breach of the understanding arrived at earlier today. The armed forces are giving an adequate and appropriate response to these violations, and we take very, very serious notice of these violations. We call upon Pakistan to take appropriate steps to address these violations and deal with the situation with seriousness and responsibility. The armed forces are maintaining a strong vigil on the situation. They have been given instructions to deal strongly with any instances of a repetition of the violations of the borders along the international border as well as the line of control.
I'm going straight across to Shivani, getting in more details at this point in time. You know, Shivani, just hours after the ceasefire announcement was made, it was blatantly violated by Pakistan. And it's in this context that a meeting is being held right now with the Prime Minister, assessing the situation. Of course, talks are going to be held tomorrow as well. And all of this is going to give us a sense of how things will move forward after the military action by way of Operation Sindoor that was initiated by India, isn't it?
Certainly, Sneha, this still remains a developing situation after Operation Sindoor, the kind of attacks that had come in from Pakistan, and thereafter when ceasefire was announced last evening, even after that, the same kind of attack happened from Pakistan's side. So it's very important for the Indian security forces, and they are on a high alert along all the borders, including the IB, the line of control, and the airspace above the robust air defense system. But it's all the more important and indicative of the fact that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is not only assessing, taking a debrief, but also planning for the next strategic action against Pakistan if any kind of terror indulgence is found, because we've already announced that an act of terror will be an act of war. So these deliberations that have been continuous since last 15 days, multiple such meetings we've seen where Prime Minister was meeting the Raksha Mantri along with the service chief. Sometimes we also saw that he was meeting them individually. But once again, when he's meeting the CDS, the NSA, the Defence Minister and the service chief, it's very
All right, we'll just connect with Shivani in a moment from now. Shivani Sharma getting in those details from Uri at this point in time, telling us about how Pakistan essentially violated the ceasefire, after which it did get a befitting reply, is what the Indian government had announced, talking about how the ceasefire that was announced in consensus was violated blatantly by Pakistan.
The understanding arrived.
By early morning, the situation had returned to normal with no overnight shelling reported from the Pakistan side though. In areas like Kashmir, the red alert was lifted. After yesterday's blackout and ceasefire violation, the situation seems to be returning to normal. People are seen on the streets across various locations. Our reporters are on the ground getting a sense of the current situation. Take a look.
Residents of Rajouri are picking up their lives right again. Look at this. People out here on the streets once again opening up the shops. What we're trying to show to you, the devastation here, but this is the resilience of the people, because remember, they have seen a lot in the past few days. Tense times, sleepless nights. We'll just try and get you a sense. This shop has just been opened. Sir, आप ये बताइए, एक बार फिर दुकान खोली है, जिंदगी पटरी पर आ रही है, क्योंकि नुकसान हुआ, हम देख रहे हैं कि शीशे वगैरह टूटे हुए हैं, और लेकिन यहाँ पे हम देख रहे हैं कि आप लोग पूरी तरह से कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि चीजें वापस पटरी पर आएं।
देखो, हर बंदे की यही कोशिश होती है कि वापस पटरी पे आए, क्योंकि रोजी रोटी रोजगार हर बंदे का यहीं से स्टार्ट होता है, और खाना क्या करना क्या है, और कोशिश करेंगे कि इसको दोबारा से इंस्टॉलमेंट करें, तैयार करवाएं और चलाएं काम अपना।
अच्छा, so let's just try and get more people. Sir, ceasefire को वेलकम करते हैं आप?
वेलकम तो करना ही है, और क्या वेलकम तो करना हमने। हम थोड़े जो रहे कि जंगी हो तो फर्स्ट क्लास उम्र रह रहे थे, कोई लड़ाई झगड़ा नहीं है हमारा, यहाँ तो कुछ है नहीं है मसला। तो ये अगर सीज फायर हो गया तो अच्छी बात है, उसमें तो
काफी रजौरी में नुकसान भी हुआ है, जाने भी गए हैं
बहुत। अभी मैं ऊपर से आ रहा हूँ, यहाँ ये ऊपर एक रेडी वाले, ऊपर वाले रेडी वाले भी जो ठीक है, नीचे वाले भी ठीक है, बीच में से सिलेंडर सारा सामान उसका बेचारा गरीब आदमी था उठा के ले गया। ये हालत है यहाँ।
See the number of people who've been going around, and this is also an indication that people are now trying. Look at that lady out there. She's back in her residence, and this is where what we can tell you is the resilience that people have shown here. This is where what we can tell you that eventually there would be life back on track.
Just couple of minutes, forward from this area, there is a line of control, the bordering area, international borders, and last night, of course, there have been some ceasefire violations by the Pakistan. But as we see now, the normalcy is restoring. The people have started getting back to the life, and that's why exactly we are sitting here on this panchayat in Chaupal in Akhnur, in this village. The activity has resumed. People have started going back to their farms. Of course, not all the offices are open. The blackout still was observed last night, and since it's a process, the restoration of normalcy process takes a time. What is biggest concern for the people is that there is a faith, there is a lack of faith on Pakistan, and which is, of course, Pakistan is an adversary and enemy nation, and these people have been suffering about ceasefire violations, and even after the announcement, the Pakistan did not kept its word. Late night, the kind of incidents that happened. So there is a sense of concern among these villagers, but for now the life मुझे लग रहा है कि चीजें ठीक हो रही हैं, लोग घरों से निकले हैं, आज आप लोग बैठ पा रहे हैं। कुछ बेहतर हुआ है आज सुबह अगर हम देखें तो?
हाँ, थोड़ा बहुत बेहतर हुआ है, ऐसी कोई बात नहीं है। तो थोड़ा सा ऐसा किया कि जो मोदी साहब ने फैसला ले लिया, इनको क्या करना था, थोड़ा सा सबको सिखाना था। हाँ, हमको क्या होता है, कोई
आप लोग ऑफिस जाना, काम वाम पे जाना शुरू किया कि नहीं आप लोग?
हाँ, थोड़ा काम जाना शुरू कर दिया, और 3 दिन से तो हम घर में ही बैठे हुए थे।
3 दिन?
हाँ जी, 3 दिन
बाद कैसा लग रहा है खुला आसमान?
तो लग रहा है कि बाहर आके कुछ लग रहा है कि काम जाम करेंगे, कुछ ऑफिस जाएंगे, कोई कुछ सामान लेंगे खाने के लिए, कुछ करेंगे। 3 दिन से घर में बैठे हुए हैं।
That's what, when the people see this kind of tension escalation, it is not just a simple conflict or the escalation. They have been facing literally bullets and shells in this area, and imagine the people who are literally confined in bunkers for 3 days.
भारत और पाकिस्तान के बीच सीज फायर जो है वो हो चुका हुआ है, जिसके बाद लोगों ने राहत की सांस भी ली है, क्योंकि फिरोजपुर सरहदी इलाका था, यहाँ पर लोग जो है वो रह रहे थे। लेकिन जो तनाव की स्थिति परसों रात को बनी थी, जिसके बाद कल प्रशासन के द्वारा पूरा दिन एहतियात के तौर पर दुकानों का मुकम्मल जो है वो पाबंदी लगाई थी कि दुकानें ना खोली जाएं। लेकिन अब आज फिरोजपुर में सुबह से ही लोग अपना जो है कारोबार शुरू कर चुके हुए हैं। आप तस्वीरों में मेरे पीछे देख सकते हैं कि लोग अपने घरों से निकलकर जो है वो अपनी दुकानों पर आ चुके हुए हैं। अपना व्यापार उनके द्वारा शुरू कर लिया गया हुआ है। अपनी नॉर्मल ज़िंदगी जो है वो दोबारा से शुरू कर दी गई है। जहां पर लगातार सरहद पर तनाव बना हुआ था, दोनों तरफ से जो है वो पाकिस्तान के द्वारा लगातार हमले किए जा रहे थे। लेकिन भारतीय जो आर्मी है उसके द्वारा उनका मुंह तोड़ जवाब दिया जा रहा था, जिसके कारण लोग भी सुरक्षित अपने आप को महसूस कर रहे थे कि हमारे पास ऐसी आर्मी है जो हम तक आंच नहीं आने देगी। लेकिन आज सुबह से ही लोग जो है अपने घरों से खुले आम जो है बाहर निकल रहे हैं और बेचिंतित होकर अपना व्यापार जो है वो शुरू कर दिया हुआ है।
After the ceasefire announcement between India and Pakistan on Saturday, there were several ceasefire violations that were reported from different parts of Rajasthan. However, on Sunday morning, things seemingly have become normal out here. You can see the market area of Falodi and the shops are open. People have been going about their business as usual, even though after the ceasefire violations, the district administration had announced blackout. Several people are out here who have come out and have expressed their anger against Pakistan's violation of ceasefire agreement or announcement, and some of the people are with me. सर, आप बताएं कि पाकिस्तान द्वारा जिस तरह से सीज़फायर अनाउंसमेंट की वायलेशन की गई, क्या आपको लगता है उस पर भरोसा किया जा सकता है?
नहीं सर, बिल्कुल भी भरोसा नहीं किया जा सकता। जिस प्रकार से हमने सुना था कि सीज़फायर हो चुका है, 5 बजे के बाद में कोई भी नहीं होगा, लेकिन रात को 9 बजे फिर वही हरकत वापस सामने आई है। उससे ब्लैकआउट वापस कर दिया गया और हालात अभी तो सामान्य है, लेकिन आगे स्थिति पता नहीं क्या हो सकती है, इसलिए उन पे भरोसा करना बिल्कुल भी सही नहीं है।
What do you think can be the solution to the entire problem? Because Pakistan clearly, despite the announcement, had not adhered to it.
Yes, I think in last 3 or 4 days, people are getting into the moment. They are already into the situation that they can face a war. So they are already, they have gone through the guidelines of government.
Do you think the strikes that were done initially in the aftermath of Pahalgam terror attack by the Indian Army or the Indian Armed Forces, their targets have not been achieved so far?
I think they could have achieved the targets, but as we have seen yesterday's firing, so there are some places where they have the drones and missiles from which they are firing yesterday also.
Clearly there is a sentiment that people feel that Pakistan has returned to its earlier ways and it cannot be trusted, and that is why they feel that its terror infrastructure needs to be destroyed completely so that it does not rear its head time and again. With camera person Nikhil Devankur Vadhavan in Falodi for India Today.
श्री गंगानगर और बीकानेर के बाजार अब पूरी तरह से खुल चुके हैं और लोग बागों ने जब सीज़ फायर होने की खबर सुनी तो कुछ राहत की सांस भी ली। हालांकि बीती रात पाकिस्तान की तरफ से आसमान में फ्लाइंग ऑब्जेक्ट्स देखे गए थे और उसके बाद लोगों ने इस बात की सूचना पुलिस प्रशासन को भी दी। इन फ्लाइंग ऑब्जेक्ट्स की जो गतिविधियां थी वो 11 बजे से पहले थी और जैसे ही विदेश मंत्रालय की प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस हुई उसके बाद में पाकिस्तान की तरफ से किसी भी तरह की हरकत को आसमान में नहीं देखा गया। देखिए, बाजार खुल चुके हैं, लोग बाग तरह तरह की बातें कर रहे हैं। जिस तरह से डोनाल्ड ट्रंप ने सीज़ फायर की एक्स पर घोषणा की, उसके बाद में जो लोगों में युद्ध को लेकर आशंकाएं थी वो समाप्त हुई है। बाजार देखिए खुल चुके हैं।
Going straight across to these pictures coming in at this point in time, Ajit Doval, you can see, in fact, we have the Prime Minister assessing the situation. These are pictures coming in from a security huddle at the Prime Minister's residence. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval at the Prime Minister's residence. The Tri-Services Chiefs are there as well, and so is the Chief of Defence Staff General Chauhan also present at this meeting. It's a big security huddle after the ceasefire that was announced late evening yesterday and the violation of the same. You can see that on your screens at this point in time, where the Tri-Services Chiefs out there, and so is the CDS, the Chief of the Defence Staff at the Prime Minister's residence, along with the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. It's a security huddle to discuss the way forward. Piyush, the contours of India's strategy next ahead. What will India be doing given the ceasefire and the ceasefire violation that was seen on the part of Pakistan? All of this is going to be discussed threadbare. The Prime Minister obviously reviewing the situation here.
Well, certainly, Sneha, this meeting is underway, and we are also getting these live visuals coming in from Prime Minister's office, where we are seeing how the top leaders are present. PM Narendra Modi, Rajnath Singh are present. All tri-service chiefs are present. NSIG Doval is also there. So it's a very important, crucial meeting which is right now going on at PM Narendra Modi's residence. Yes, certainly the discussions would be going on. The ceasefire violations, those have been done by Pakistan, and the befitting response which we have given to Pakistan. At the same time, what has happened in the last more than 2 weeks, how India has countered Pakistan, how we have thwarted all the attempts those have been made by Pakistan. All these things would be the part of this discussion. And remember that this meeting is Sneha, taking place at a time when Pakistan, despite reaching on an understanding of ceasefire, violated the ceasefire multiple times. So the meeting is underway. All tri-service chiefs are present. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is there. National Security Advisor Ajit Doval is here. And remember that NSA National Ajit Doval has been briefing Prime Minister on each and every development, each and every update in the last more than 2 weeks.
Given that India has agreed, Piyush, to ceasefire, haven't they, after Islamabad's initiation, and this has been violated, essentially this is going to be discussed, and also what next? Tomorrow there is a key meeting as well. How India is going to, what will be India's demands really from Pakistan vis-a-vis the kind of tensions that we've seen over the last few days, and also the justice for the victims of Pahalgam. All of that is going to be discussed, plus the very fact that the terrorists behind the attack are actually still missing.
Well, absolutely, yes, and that could also be the part of meeting as to how to hunt down all these terrorists, because Prime Minister had made it very clear that he will track, hunt and punish each and every terrorist who is inflicting damage to Indian soil, and he has to fulfill his promise, and that's why these meetings are being chaired. Also, it's very important to understand that Pakistan is a repeat offender, and like it violated a ceasefire yesterday, it can do this again. So how to prepare for that, and how to give a befitting response to Pakistan, all these things could be the part of this discussion, which is right now in this meeting, which is right now underway at Prime Minister's residence. Remember that this meeting holds a lot of importance, because this meeting is taking place after Pakistan violated the ceasefire on which it had agreed upon. There are many things, security apparatus, how to be vigilant, how to keep a watch on each and every moment. All these things could be the part of this meeting. Most importantly, National Security Advisor, is also present in this meeting, and he is the man who is leading from the front. He has been briefing Prime Minister on all the updates, and we have seen that when the meetings come to an end, there is another meeting takes place between National Security Advisor and PM Narendra Modi. So most likely that meeting could also follow after this top meeting, which is right now underway at our Prime Minister's residence. After this comes to an end, we will be able to know about the details of this meeting. But yes, it is a very crucial meeting which is taking place at the Prime Minister's residence, and multiple issues could be the part of this discussion. We have seen that after such meetings, the government takes a decision, the government moves ahead, and then we see the results also coming out. So after this meeting also, some sort of decisions are taken by the government. But one thing is clear, that we are going to give a befitting response to any kind of terror which is sponsored by Pakistan. In fact, yesterday sources in the government also told us Sneha, that any act of terror on Indian soil will be considered as an act of war and will be responded accordingly.
All right, I'm going to leave it at that for the moment. Piyush Mishra getting us those details as far as the meeting at the Prime Minister's residence. Pictures of the same on your screens at this point in time. Fire Services chiefs, the CDS, the Defence Minister, the External Affairs Minister, and of course, the National Security Advisor at that key huddle, that key security huddle. More news coming in at this point in time. BrahMos used to strike Pakistan. BrahMos booster and cap has been found near the border. The ejected missile parts are found near Bikaner. It clearly is a big indication that BrahMos strike on Jaish headquarters in Pakistan indeed took place. Sources say Pakistan failed to intercept BrahMos once again. What's becoming clear right now is that BrahMos was possibly used in precision attacks on dozen Pakistan air bases. The use of the missile in the attack, marking the first ever, perhaps, demonstration of the cruise missile in actual combat. Essentially, what's also clear is that Pakistan failed to intercept BrahMos. A big indication because what has been found, the parts of it, the ejected missile parts have been found near Bikaner. BrahMos booster and cap found near the border, indicating perhaps that this was used essentially. The BrahMos missile in the attack would mark really the first ever demonstration of the cruise missile in actual combat. Shivani has got more. Shivani, those pictures I think speak volumes of the fact that BrahMos perhaps was used, and this time clearly the first time in actual combat. Though we are, I think, yet to have an official word from the forces on the same, but the visuals that we have with us, just show the BrahMos booster and cap found near the border, just indicating that perhaps this is the ejected missile parts that have been found near Bikaner.
BrahMos is the pride of India. BrahMos has been a ballistic missile that can be used for long ranges of target interception by India. And what we are receiving from the sources is that for the damage that has been inflicted inside Pakistan, BrahMos was one of the weapons that was used by India. And this is the weapon that is a lethal indigenous weapon. India has been making this in collaboration with Russia, and many countries have actually asked for BrahMos. We've been reporting on those deals too. But for the first time, we get to know that this is the strike by BrahMos in Pakistan that has caused severe damages to infrastructure inside Pakistan. Here we have to understand, Shreya, India has not targeted any civilian infrastructure, only the terror outfits, and thereafter, as a retaliatory action on the air bases, Indian weapons have been used. So this is the ballistic missile that the sources are indicating was used to cause damages on the air bases in Pakistan, and after which we saw that Pakistan requested for a talks with the DGMO for a ceasefire. So this is a big story where BrahMos has been once again proven its capabilities, its lethality, and India's strength.
Not just the fact that it's proven its lethality, but also, isn't it, Shivani, the very fact that Pakistan failed to intercept BrahMos once again. That's also pretty evident.
Yes, certainly. BrahMos is such a weapon system that was not intercepted by Pakistan. That shows that how capable this is to not only get intercepted but also create heavy damages. The technique that has been used out here is beyond Pakistan's range for its interception, and we had already destroyed the air defense systems in multiple places prior to this operation that we. So the BrahMos has been very lethal. It has caused severe damages out there into structures of the Pakistan's air bases and the terror outfits. And very importantly, it was not intercepted by Pakistan. And that was a big blow to Pakistan and a big strength of India that was once again very evident in those infrastructural videos we've been seeing that were destroyed in Operation Sindoor. And after when Pakistan tried to attack Indian civilians with the swarm drones and then these ballistic missiles created havoc in Pakistan.
Well, absolutely. This is the first ever demonstration of the cruise missile Shivani in actual combat. Just waiting to hear from the defense and from our forces essentially on how this was used and the manner in which Pakistan clearly failed to intercept it. If you are learning anything at all. All right, we have more news coming in. We'll get our viewers more on the BrahMos aspect of how this was used in precision attacks against Pakistan. Let's take a look at these developments that we're reporting on at this point in time. We're getting in the final rites of Army Braveheart in Jammu. Pictures will be coming in of Rifleman Sunil Kumar, who died in Pakistan shelling. The Jawan died in Pakistan attacks in the Arispura sector in Jammu and Kashmir. Mortal remains of Rifleman Sunil Kumar brought to his residence in the Treva village of Jammu. He lost his life in the line of duty during the shelling by Pakistan in the Arispura sector. The Jawan died in the shelling in the Arispura sector. His mortal remains are being brought to his village in Jammu. Pictures are from his village where the forces have in fact brought in his mortal remains. The last rites of the Army Braveheart will be taking place in his hometown, in his village in Jammu. We have pictures in fact coming in right now from his village. Shivani, we've lost yet another Jawan, Rifleman Sunil Kumar, who's died, who's been killed, while in combat. His body has now been brought to his residence. His mortal remains in Treva village of Jammu. He, of course, as we know, lost his life in the line of duty during the shelling by Pakistan in the Arispura sector.
Sneha, we've seen how our defense forces have defended not only on the skies with the air defense system, but also on the line of control, where they were retaliating with full force when Pakistan was resorting to unprovoked heavy artillery firing in multiple sectors. And our Jawans have been showing restraint, yet targeting, yet acting with full force and inflicting damages towards Pakistan's side. But Pakistan aggressively intensified these artillery firing in past 4 days after Operation Sindoor was successful. And this is one casualty that has happened in the Arispura sector that also witnessed an aggressive firing from Pakistan's side, the unprovoked artillery firing, the 155 mm. We've also reported of the civilian casualties across Jammu and Kashmir, and with full military honors, Rifleman Sunil Kumar will be, his last rites will be performed, and the Indian Army, and we've been getting messages, they have sent out the respect for all those Jawans who have been standing for the country during this time, and they have not only brought a lot of damage to Pakistan, they defended the nation when Operation Sindoor was on and thereafter.
Shivani, I'm going to leave it at that for the moment. Rifleman Sunil Kumar, all of just 25 years of age, of the Jammu and Kashmir Light Infantry, died of wounds suffered during the overnight fire and shelling on the part of Pakistan. This in the Arispura sector. His mortal remains now being brought to his village. His final rites will take place today. On that note, we're wrapping up this edition. On the other side, a special broadcast, a show that details on the history of the conflict between India and Pakistan. Guns and Glory up ahead on the other side.
Edge 60 Pro, the edge of excellence.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro. Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro, the edge of excellence.
Hi, here are the top headlines presented by Motorola. Hours after India announced ceasefire, Pakistan violates truce, peace and border era.
Edge 60 Pro, the edge of excellence.
Hi, here are the top headlines presented by Motorola. Hours after India announced ceasefire, Pakistan violates truce, peace in border areas, no news of any firing since late night, no change in India's position on the suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty.
An India Today world exclusive. 2010, India Today inside Muridke.
A safe haven for terrorists. Pakistan uses terror as part of state policy.
2025, Muridke terror hubs wiped out.
Big story coming in. Muridke has been targeted. Oh my God, the terror epicenter has been targeted. Information just coming in. Indian missiles have struck the Lashkar-e-Taiba headquarters. Muridke has been bombed. It's a big, big story. This is India's Operation Sindoor.
The line of clarity with God of Sawan. Only on India Today.
Hello and welcome. You've tuned in to India Today Television. This is our special broadcast, Guns and Glory. I'm Sneha Mordani. On the show today, we will delve deep into India-Pakistan conflict and the tensions which have intensified and how, after the horrific Pahalgam attack on the 22nd of April, in which Pakistan-sponsored terrorists massacred innocent Hindu tourists, prompting a response, a sharp one at that, from India. The fact is that India-Pakistan conflict has intensified into perhaps the most expansive one in decades. This conflict has rapidly escalated since airstrikes by India, which hit targets in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, an operation aptly named Operation Sindoor. The combat has widened and intensified. It's a new kind of battle for the two old enemies, though. India and Pakistan had become separate countries in 1947, have fought 3 wars with disputes over Kashmir a part of each one. The 1965 war between India and Pakistan was actually the second conflict between the two countries over the status of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. The clash did not resolve this dispute, but it did engage the United States and the Soviet Union in ways that would have important implications for subsequent superpower involvement in the region. Here's more.
Desert Hawk started in January 1965, with Pakistan claiming the Rann of Kutch in Gujarat as Pakistani territory. By April, the armies of India and Pakistan were involved in a full battle over the control of the old Kanjarkot fort. It was in this battle that Pakistan tested their newly acquired Patton tanks from the US. Both sides suffered losses, till a ceasefire was mediated by the British Prime Minister, Harold Wilson, which took effect on April the 29th. But Pakistan's hostility, both along the international border and the ceasefire line, continued unabated. On August 13th, Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri finally issued a stern warning to Pakistan in a radio broadcast, saying, "Force will be met with force."
तो एक सरकार के नाते हमारा क्या जवाब हो सकता है सिवाय इसके कि हम हथियारों का जवाब हथियारों से दें।
In August, the Indian Army began taking possession of mountain passes in Kargil, Uri, and Titwal areas, through which Pakistan was pushing its invaders. On August 25th, the Indian Army launched an operation to take the most important Haji Pir Pass. The Pakistanis were completely surprised. They left their weapons and ran down the hill to escape. By 10:30 a.m. on August 28, one para had captured the pass. At 3:45 a.m., Pakistan began shelling Indian Army positions in Cham. Then, 70 tanks and 2 Pakistani brigades rolled over the international border. The Pakistani objective was Akhnur Bridge over the river Chenab to cut off supply lines between Punjab and Kashmir. The bridge connected Jammu with Rajouri and Poonch, and to the east lay the bigger target of the Jammu-Srinagar highway. At 5:19 p.m. on 1st September, Indian Air Force vampires from Pathankot Air Force Base began taking off to reinforce India's defense. In Pakistan, even as his troops and armor were invading India, Ayub Khan declared in a radio broadcast that the threat of war in Kashmir was being forced on them.
भारतीय हुक्मरान शुरू से पाकिस्तान की वजूद से नफरत करते रहे हैं और मुसलमानों की इबादा आजाद मुमलिकत को उन्होंने कभी दिल से तस्लीम ही नहीं किया।
Over the next 4 days, Pakistan continued with its offensive inside India. Indian Army units, though outnumbered and outgunned, put up a brave fight. The Indian Air Force kept harassing the Pakistani forward positions from the air. General Chaudhry sought permission to launch Operation Riddle, but that meant an invasion of Pakistan. Lal Bahadur Shastri's reply was cryptic: cross it. Before dawn on 6th September, India launched a 3-pronged offensive against Lahore along an 80-kilometer front. From the northeast across the river Ravi, along the Amritsar-Lahore road at Wagah, and from the south.
Big story breaking at this hour. Indian Air Force says Operation Sindoor is very much still on. Operation Sindoor with precision and professionalism. Operations were conducted in a deliberate and discreet manner aligned with national objectives. Since the operations are still ongoing, a detailed briefing is going to be conducted in due course. The Indian Air Force urges all to refrain from speculation and dissemination of unverified information. I'm going straight across to Shivani for more details on that. Shivani, it's a big statement there coming in from the Air Force saying that the operation is still very much on. This comes at a time when there has been a ceasefire. So isn't there a ceasefire? What else are you picking up? Explain this to us.
Sneha, this message that has given out by Indian Air Force says that the operations are still ongoing, which is a big message, and we have to understand and assess from this message that the Operation Sindoor, which was started against the terror outfits in Pakistan, is still going on. That's what the message on X has been now suggestive of. The Indian Air Force says that we have successfully executed its assigned tasks in the Operation Sindoor with precision and professionalism, and operations were conducted in a deliberate and discreet manner aligned with the national objectives. But since the operations are still ongoing, a detailed briefing will be conducted in due course. That means the operation is still not over, Sneha. All our forces are still on a high alert, operational preparedness, and the operations are going on. One more suggestion that has been there, because we've been seeing a lot of misinformation going on around the assets of India being destroyed and damaged in Pakistan. We've been seeing some fake news doing rounds about the Indian pilots being in custody of Pakistan. So all that is a fake and false agenda. Here, Air Force has also urged to refrain from any kind of speculation. The details will be given out once the operation is completely over. The debriefs are taken, the assessments are done. But as of now, this particular message that comes in from Indian Air Force suggests that the operations are still going on. We also see a lot of deliberations from Prime Minister's meeting with the NSA, the Defense Minister. That also suggests that the operations are still going on, and we'll be getting an official word soon about this.
You know, also in that statement that they put out, and I'm going to read that out from what the Indian Air Force has said, the IAF urges all to refrain from speculation and dissemination of unverified information. This comes at a time when we know that a ceasefire was what was discussed. However, it's been repeatedly said that this is an understanding. That is the key word here, isn't it?
Yes, Neha, certainly India has not called it an agreement. India has called it a pause in the firing that was happening along the line of control as a retaliation to what Pakistan was doing. Because, you know, India did not start any kind of escalation. The escalation was coming in from Pakistan, be it the drones that they were using on civilians after Operation Sindoor, the second continuous day when it happened. And then the Indian Armed Forces had to retaliate with full force, and all our assets were utilized in that. They have acted according to the national security needs. That's what the Air Force also suggests. But what happened yesterday was a surprise. After the ceasefire was announced, the halt in this firing was announced, and an understanding was reached. There was again firing from Pakistan side, not only the artillery firing, but on the international border there was report of small arms firing. And in the skies we saw the barrage of drones that was neutralized by Indian forces. So we have to wait to learn that what the forces are diverging into. The operations are still on. That's what a message we've got from the Indian Air Force officially on X that has been posted, which means that India is still considering it as a pause, an understanding, and not an agreement with Pakistan.
Go right, game on. And I think this statement makes it very clear, Shivani, that this is just a pause for the time being. We will continue to seek justice, and the ulterior or the ultimate motive really to destroy terror bases in Pakistan is something that we will be looking at even in days and weeks to come, isn't it?
Neha, we've been getting inputs from the sources that 9 terror bases have been destroyed. There was a list of 21, remember? And India has said that any act of terror will be taken as act of war against India. And the intense operations against terror outfits inside India have been going on. We've been reporting about them. The operations are still not over. India's operation against terrorism goes on. That's the message that we are getting. And we have to wait for more details, as the Air Force also has put out that there are operations that are still going on, and more details will be brought out once these operations are done. So we have to be a little patient for more official confirmation. Until then, the speculation needs to be stopped. That's what is also being said here. A number of false and fake news as a part of Pakistan's information war game have been doing rounds, putting those fake false tweets, old videos, old pictures of Indian pilots there. So this is what has been now clarified, that these are all fake and false agenda being run by Pakistan. India's operation against terror goes on.
Absolutely. Shivani, getting in those details, a big statement that has been made by the Indian Air Force, essentially talking about the fact that the operation is still on, the game is still on, is what is being reiterated by our forces here. Do not speculate, refrain from speculation and dissemination of information, unverified information. So verify that information is what is being said. It's a significant statement as it comes a day after, just a few hours after rather, a ceasefire was announced, in fact first by US President Donald Trump and also later on by India. Indian Air Force now says Operation Sindoor is still on with precision and professionalism. Operations were conducted in a deliberate and discreet manner, aligned with national objectives. Since the operations are still ongoing, a detailed briefing is going to be conducted in due course. Remember, there was a word that there would be a press briefing, and that, in fact, was in a way cancelled. The Indian Air Force now urging everyone to refrain from speculation and dissemination of unverified information. Shivani continues to be with us. Shivani, they've also gone on to say that we will be giving you the information and that in some time, in due course is the word used, and there would be an indication about what we are doing, how are we doing it. A briefing would be conducted in due course.
Yes, Neha, that's what the message says, that in due course. That means in some time when the assessments will be complete, because, you know, we have to be prepared for any kind of mistrust that Pakistan has been bringing to us by breaching the ceasefire that like it did last evening. So we cannot say the operations are over. India is still on a high alert. It is defending the skies, it's defending the borders, and it is ready for any kind of misadventure if it comes further from Pakistan's side. It cannot be trusted. You and I both know this. So the operations are still on, and when the operations will be completed, we are understanding that the forces together, not only the Indian force, in the Indian Army, the Indian Navy, they will be all coming out together to give us the details of the operation and the damage that they have inflicted on Pakistan, and how they went about to bring justice to the people of Pahalgam who lost their lives, and these terror outfits that have been destroyed, and the operation that still goes on against terror.
Well, absolutely. Shivani getting in those details and that significant statement that has in fact come in from the forces saying that the operation is still on. Remember, this comes at a time when the ceasefire announcement was made. Indian Air Force has urged everyone to refrain from speculation and dissemination of unverified information. Remember, at a time when the Operation Sindoor is still on, is what has been declared by the forces. The Indian Air Force has given an indication that it is still on. We have, in fact, more news coming in at this point in time. Let's take a look. India's revelations forced America to intervene is what we are learning. S. Jaishankar, Ajit Doval briefed US and Pakistan's nuke moves. India exposed Pakistan's use of civilian flights in combat. US ceasefire push was intensified only after India informed the US about what Pakistan was up to, is what we are learning. About the fact that civilian aircrafts were being used almost as cover shield by Pakistan. Remember, we told you earlier as well about the fact that even when intense activity vis-a-vis the firing was on and India's defense system was bringing down one drone, one missile after the other, as informed by the forces as well, Pakistan had kept its airspace open. This is something that External Affairs Minister Ajit Doval has told the US about, and also briefed the US on Pakistan's nuke moves. I'm going straight to Piyush for more details on that at this point in time. Piyush, of course, as far as using civilians as cover shield is concerned, we do know that Pakistan had kept its airspace open to civilian aircraft, something that was highlighted by the Indian forces. But what else are you picking up as far as India informing America about Pakistan's nuke moves are concerned? What specific input was shared? What more can you tell us? All right, we have more news coming in. We're going straight across to...
उसको उसकी भाषा में जवाब देने के लिए तैयार होगा, और इस दिशा में भारत ने ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के माध्यम से दुनिया को एक संदेश दे दिया है। उत्तर प्रदेश के अंदर जो 6 के 6 नोड डिफेंस मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कॉरिडोर के हमारे विकसित हो रहे हैं, इन 6 के 6 नोड पर हमारा कार्य तेजी के साथ आगे बढ़ रहा है। इससे पहले हम लोगों ने कानपुर में वहां पर रक्षा सेनाओं के लिए जो गोला बारूद बनता है उसके उत्पादन के एक केंद्र का वहां पे शुभारंभ किया था। बहुत बड़ा केंद्र बना है, आप जाएंगे, अत्याधुनिक केंद्र है। अब वे अपने एक्सपेंशन के लिए भी उन्होंने और लैंड मांगनी प्रारंभ की। लखनऊ में भी आपने देखा होगा कि ब्रह्मोस को जैसे ही 200 एकड़ लैंड दी गई, तो अब पीटीसी भी यहां पर आया है। पीटीसी के कार्यों को आपने देखा होगा कि न केवल ब्रह्मोस के लिए बल्कि एरोस्पेस से जुड़े हुए उन सभी कार्यों के लिए उनके द्वारा एक एंकर यूनिट के रूप में यहां पर उत्पादन कार्य अपना प्रारंभ भी किया गया है। लगभग 7 यूनिट यहां पर ब्रह्मोस से जुड़ी हुई एंकर यूनिट भी इसके अगल बगल लग रही है। ये चीजें दिखाती हैं कि जो कभी 2013-14 में भारत के अंदर भारत का जो निर्यात था रक्षा उत्पादन के क्षेत्र में, आज हम उससे कई गुना ज्यादा यानी कई 100 गुना ज्यादा रक्षा उत्पादन निर्यात भी कर रहे हैं और आत्मनिर्भरता के साथ साथ दुनिया के तमाम अपने मित्र देशों को इसको निर्यात करके उनकी सुरक्षा की आवश्यकताओं की पूर्ति करने का काम भी कर रहे हैं। किसी भी स्वावलंबी देश के लिए आवश्यक होता है कि अपनी रक्षा आपूर्ति के लिए वह दुनिया के अन्य देशों पर निर्भर होने की बजाय स्वयं उस लक्ष्य को प्राप्त करे। आज पूरी दुनिया के अंदर आप देख रहे होंगे युद्ध अलग अलग क्षेत्रों में हो रहे हैं, अलग अलग क्षेत्रों में हो रहे हैं। उन क्षेत्रों में अगर आप देखेंगे कि अगर जिन देशों के पास अपनी स्वयं की रक्षा उत्पादन की क्षमता नहीं है, वे देश इस प्रवर्तमान अभियान के एक अलग थलग पड़े हुए दिखाई देते हैं। लेकिन जिनके पास अपनी आत्मनिर्भरता है रक्षा उत्पादन के क्षेत्र में, वे दुनिया के अंदर पूरी धमक के साथ आगे बढ़ करके अपने कार्य को आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं।